Chapter 436 Hidden Sex Power, Submission of the Human Race's Prodigy. Chapter 436 Hidden Sex Power, Submission of the Human Race's Prodigy. He read the emails. Most of them were about fighting. It was unknown how long the humans and Heavenly Court would fight. I've been too bored recently. I don't even have a target to curse. Sigh, the Dark Forbidden Lord is about to retire. Hanju sighed and slowly stood up. He prepared to go out and preach the Tao to help his disciples improve their cultivation. Unknowingly, more than 70 years passed. Detected that you are 7,000 years old, and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Enter the calamity immediately and fight with the sages. You can obtain a chance to upgrade the system, a supreme treasure, a great Tao fragment, and a mystical power inheritance. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and stay away from trouble. You can obtain a great Tao fragment and a random natural treasure. 7,000 years old. He wasn't far from 10,000 years old. Hanju sighed. He didn't expect to be so old already. He silently chose the second option. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and obtained a great Tao fragment and a random natural treasure. Congratulations on obtaining the Chaotic Origin Stone. Chaotic Origin Stone. The first stone that was created at the beginning of chaos. It can produce an endless stream of chaotic qi. It contains the power of creation that gives birth to all things. Hanju's eyes lit up. What a treasure! This was even more valuable than the Fusang tree. Hanju immediately took out the Chaotic Origin Stone. This stone looked like a ball of water. Its shape kept changing. It was murky and shiny. After thinking about it, Hanju threw the Chaotic Origin Stone into the depths of his soul, into the world of stars. He had always wanted to turn this world of stars into a true heavenly Tao world. In addition, the chaotic qi produced by the Chaotic Origin Stone might be able to help the Fiend Celestial Qi evolve. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Hanju hoped to nurture more chaotic Fiend Celestials. If his world of stars could develop into an immortal world, wouldn't he be the heavenly Tao? If someone became a sage, wouldn't he surpass the heavenly Tao? This plan seemed impossible, but Hanju felt that it was feasible. The stellar primordial body was a powerful physique that surpassed chaos. Even a chaotic Fiend Celestial might not be able to compare to him. Anything was possible with the Chaotic Origin Stone. Hanju continued cultivating and observing the Chaotic Origin Stone. The stone continued to produce chaotic qi, and most of it was absorbed by the 3 balls of Fiend Celestial Qi. Soon, Hanju discovered that the Chaotic Origin Stone stopped producing chaotic qi because the demand for it was too high, and it couldn't withstand the output. Hanju had no choice but to move the Chaotic Origin Stone further away. Not long after, the Chaotic Origin Stone continued to produce chaotic qi. Looks like I have to wait for a while longer. Hanju thought silently. His stellar primordial body could produce chaotic qi. To be precise, it was a higher-level nebulous primordial qi, but it was slower. Hanju felt that it was mainly because his cultivation was not high enough. When he became a sage, the speed at which he nurtured nebulous primordial qi would definitely be terrifying. In short, my future is limitless. Hanju thought proudly. With the resources he had now, he didn't need to pursue opportunities at all. If he cultivated quietly, he would become a terrifying existence that even sages couldn't imagine. Continue being steady. I will become the strongest sooner or later. Hanju silently encouraged himself. Soon, he entered his cultivation state. Hanju had been paying attention to the passage of time, but the hidden sect disciples had already forgotten. They even ignored the fact that the immeasurable calamity was ongoing outside. Apart from cultivation, their main topic was competitiveness. After Tao Comprehension Sword, Chu Shuren also reached the Emperor realm. Zhou Minghua was bitter. In the past, Chu Shuren had only suppressed him by a realm. Now that he was using all his strength, he couldn't catch up at all. Chu Shuren no longer kept asking people not to cultivate. Other than telling everyone his knowledge, most of the topics were about discussing the Tao and how to become stronger. Apart from Chu Shuren, Jiang Yi's talent had also completely erupted. He had broken through not long ago, and had already reached the rank for Immortal Emperor realm. Although he had successfully broken through, Jiang Yi was not excited. He was still filled with urgency. Li Yao was already attempting to break through to the rank 3 Immortal Emperor realm. This woman was too powerful. Apart from cultivation, Li Yao's combat talent was also very strong. Almost everyone agreed that Li Yao was the female version of Hanju. Most importantly, Li Yao wasn't Hanju's disciple, and did not call him master. This relationship was worth thinking about. Under Li Yao's lead, the entire hidden sect was filled with a competitive cultivation culture. The Black Hell Demon Lord felt the worst. Being chased up by juniors meant that his status could not be preserved. Although it was uncomfortable, he had no choice. His potential was indeed inferior to these few. Apart from Li Yao, Tu Linger and Morongqi were also very fierce. The two of them liked to rely on battles to break through. They comprehended in battle, and were natural battle maniacs. Next was the chaotic gourd spirit Han 8. His strength had already left the other 7 brothers behind. He was advancing towards the first-tier group of the hidden sect disciples. The cultivation levels of the 10,000 nether race members were almost identical. They were even slightly inferior to the Grand Unity Golden Immortal. In short, everyone in the hidden sect was very satisfied with their current life, and experienced the benefits of cultivation. The hidden sect's overall strength was also rapidly increasing. The Black Hell Demon Lord joked that if the hidden sect entered the immortal world after the calamity ended, it would definitely stir up a commotion. Another 30 years passed. The 100-year competition had just ended. Some were happy, while others were worried. Hanju was still far from the late-stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal realm, but he was not discouraged. After all, his speed was already fast enough. After reaching the Zenith Heaven realm, who could break through a minor realm in 1,000 years? Oh, there was someone indeed. Li Daokong. However, it was the immeasurable calamity now. Li Daokong relied on his great providence to constantly grow. On this day, Hanju was teasing the strange deity and enjoying the massage when he suddenly sensed the chaotic domain's summoning. It was a new fortuitous encounter. Hanju jumped into the chaotic domain. Only one person was waiting for him in the chaotic domain, Zhao Xianyuan. Hanju asked in surprise, "Where's Dao Sovereign?" Zhao Xianyuan replied, "Daoist brother and Zhou Fan obtained a huge opportunity not long ago. I parted ways with them, and have already returned to the human race." Hanju lost his interest immediately. Although Dao's sovereign always troubled him, he would also bring benefits. As for Zhao Xianyuan, Hanju was not close to him. Zhao Xianyuan saw that he was bored and hurriedly said, "Senior, I'm not here to trouble you. I want to senior." Didn't he call Hanju fellow Taoist before? Hanju was alerted. Could it be that a sage was behind this? Now the heavenly Tao sages were even thinking of ways to form a relationship with Hanju. At this juncture, Zhao Xianyuan came looking for him. "I want to become the disciple of your sect," said Zhao Xianyuan after mustering his courage. Hanju asked in surprise, "Who told you I have a sect? Back then, didn't you ask Taoist brother to go?" "I was just casually joking. My cultivation level is inferior to yours." "Impossible. You give me an unfathomable feeling. My instincts are very accurate. I've never misjudged anyone. Perhaps this is my talent." Zhao Xianyuan stared at him and said seriously. Hanju didn't agree immediately. Zhao Xianyuan said, "I heard from Dao Sovereign that you don't want to enter the calamity. Don't worry. I definitely won't let you be involved in karma with the humans." Chapter 437 Zhao Xianyuan enters the hidden sect. Definite future Zenith Heaven. Chapter 437 Zhao Xianyuan enters the hidden sect. Definite future Zenith Heaven. Hanju fell silent and didn't reply immediately. For a time, the chaotic domain fell silent. Zhao Xianyuan was uneasy. After a long while, Hanju said, "Forget it. My temple is small and can't accommodate a great Buddha like you. I don't want to worry about you in the future after establishing a relationship with you. My disciples have to cultivate diligently and stay away from the mortal world. If they want to pursue the Tao, they are no different from a monk." Coming to a realization, Zhao Xianyuan said, "Don't worry, I don't like women and like fighting." "Don't like fighting? Hanju almost believed it. Zhao Xianyuan gritted his teeth and said, "Senior, give me a chance. I really." He began to beg Hanju nonstop with a humble attitude. "I want to know, is Zhao Xianyuan plotting something? Or is a sage involved?" Hanju thought silently. 100 million years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Was Zhao Xianyuan worthy of 100 million? Could there really be a conspiracy? Continue. There is no conspiracy or plot by a sage. He is sincere. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. It was fine as long as no sages were involved. Upon careful thought, it made sense. He had never met Zhao Xianyuan before. And there was no karma between them. How could a sage deduce that? Hanju was also very hesitant. This fellow didn't even have a favorable impression of him. How could he accept this guy? Hanju even suspected that Zhao Xianyuan was a puppet. How could he not have emotions? Zhao Xianyuan asked anxiously, "Senior, do you have any other concerns? If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks." Hanju asked, "Don't you have emotions?" Zhao Xianyuan was stunned. "What do you mean?" Zhao Xianyuan was confused, but he replied honestly, "My Dao heart is like water. I have lost the emotions and desires of mortals since I was young. Other than feeling nervousness and helplessness towards experts, I don't even get angry." "What?" Thinking of something, Zhao Xianyuan said, "If Senior is willing to accept me, I will follow your lead. If I attain the Great Dao, I will also return to help you." Zhao Xianyuan has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 6 stars. Hanju was stunned when he saw the line of words. 6-star directly? This kid is mental. Hanju felt that Zhao Xianyuan's potential was not bad. "Alright, I'll teach you a mystical power. After you learn it, summon me. I'll fetch you." Hanju taught Zhao Xianyuan the invocation technique. Ever since there was a world of stars, Hanju could use the invocation technique to move people. He wasn't worried that Zhao Xianyuan would leak the invocation technique. It was useless even if it was revealed. After using the invocation technique, if he did not agree, no one would be able to summon him. Zhao Xianyuan's potential was indeed impressive. He quickly grasped the invocation technique. "Summon me when you're ready." Hanju left after saying this. Zhao Xianyuan was stunned. What a powerful mystical power. This senior was a senior indeed. He began to look forward to their next meeting after returning to the Khanate cave abode. Hanju continued cultivating. Several days later, Zhao Xianyuan used the invocation technique. Hanju cautiously used the derivation function and asked if there were any pseudo-sage or stronger existences near Zhao Xianyuan. He consumed 100 million years of his lifespan. Yes, then I can't go. Hanju couldn't be bothered to care about anyone. As long as there was danger, there was no need for him to interfere. For the next period of time, Zhao Xianyuan used the invocation technique from time to time. Hanju didn't spend 100 million years of his lifespan to ask every time. 7 years later, Zhao Xianyuan used the invocation technique again. This time, Hanju used another 100 million years of his lifespan to derive it. No, seeing this word, Hanju was finally relieved and stepped into the black vortex. Immediately after, he arrived at a bright palace. Zhao Xianyuan was sitting in front of the black vortex. Seeing Hanju appear, Zhao Xianyuan was pleasantly surprised. He thought he had failed again. Zhao Xianyuan stood up and said excitedly, "Senior. What a handsome man." Zhao Xianyuan originally thought that he was already the most handsome man in the world. But in front of Hanju, he couldn't help but feel ashamed. "Let's go first." Hanju waved his hand and put Zhao Xianyuan into his sleeve. He then moved into the world of stars and flew into the black vortex. The black vortex shrank and quickly vanished. At this moment, a figure appeared in the hall. This person wore a black and white robe. He had a dignified expression, and his eyes emitted a faint blue light. He was extremely magical. "Oh, he left so quickly." The robed man pinched his fingers to deduce, but he couldn't deduce Zhao Xianyuan's whereabouts. Could it be that they jumped into the dark forbidden zone instantly? This variable is indeed not simple. Inside the Khanate cave abode, Hanju let Zhao Xianyuan out. Still immersed in the shock of the world of stars, when he landed in front of Hanju, Zhao Xinyuan jolted awake. He hurriedly knelt in front of him as a greeting. Hanju said, 7 years ago, I sensed your summoning. It's just that you had a pseudo-sage, or even stronger existence by your side. Zhao Xinyuan was stunned. He frowned and said, I only told my master that I wanted to go out. A pseudo-sage of the human race. Could it be? Zhao Xinyuan realized something. Hanju walked towards the entrance and said, Follow me. Zhao Xinyuan hurriedly followed him. He also sized up this Khanate cave abode. His gaze was attracted by the resurrection lily in the corner. Isn't this the resurrection lily of the netherworld? Senior actually planted it. A storm brewed in Zhao Xuanyuan's heart. Not only that, but he could feel that the spirit qi and Khanate qi here were extremely dense. Even denser than on the cultivation holy land of the humans. After walking out of the cave abode, all the disciples cultivating under the Fusang tree turned their heads. They didn't sense Hanju's aura, but Zhao Xuanyuan's. From today onwards, this is my 6th disciple. Get to know each other, Hanju said. With that, he turned around and returned to his cave abode. Everyone surrounded him. Jiang Yi asked in surprise, Zhao Xianyuan, why are you here? Zhao Xianyuan narrowed his eyes and asked curiously, Are you Jiang Yi of the Golden Crow Divine Clan? The two of them were both geniuses, but the difference in cultivation was huge. Zhao Xianyuan was already at the 3 mystic divine origin, and could be considered Jiang Yi's senior. Jiang Yi sighed. You've already stepped into the deity realm, and still acknowledge Sima Yi as your master. Does the human race know about this? The black hell chicken couldn't help but ask. Why are you still calling Master Sima Yi? None of your business. Jiang Yi and the black hell chicken fought again. Zhao Xinyuan began to observe the others. Before long, Xing Hongxian also walked out of the cave abode to watch the commotion. She was stunned when she saw Zhao Xinyuan. Isn't this the #1 prodigy of the human race? How did Hanju poach him? The next day, Hanju opened the authority of the simulation trial for Zhao Xinyuan. He was stunned by the simulation trial. Like the other disciples, he quickly became obsessed and couldn't extricate himself. Zhao Xinyuan tried to challenge Hanju. In the simulation trial, Hanju's cultivation had been updated to his current state. Without any surprise, Zhao Xinyuan was killed by a punch from heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial. Zhao Xinyuan wasn't affected. Instead, he was very excited. He had made the right decision. Hanju was indeed ridiculously strong. Zhao Xinyuan had never heard of a mystical power like the simulation trial. After interacting with the other disciples for a period of time, he understood the rules of the hidden sect, and looked forward to it even more. If he stayed here, when the calamity ended, he would definitely become a Zenith Heaven cultivator. Chapter 438 Tao Destruction Mystical Power, Terror of a Sage. Chapter 438 Tao Destruction Mystical Power, Terror of a Sage. Zhao Xuanyuan's appearance greatly stimulated the hidden sect disciples. Other than Hanju, Lu Bu, and Ma Chao, no one was his match as he was in the 3 mystic divine origin realm. After Zhao Xinyuan experienced the simulation trial, he became low profile. Compared to Hanju's opponents, he was still weak as a mortal. As he learned more about Li Yao, Tu Linger, Chu Shuren, and the others, Zhao Xinyuan also felt a sense of danger. These disciples were actually so young. They weren't even 10,000 years old. Their talent was terrifying. He had heard of Jiang Yi's talent. He was even more famous than him, and had also entered the hidden sect. He was very curious about Hanju's identity, but he didn't dare to ask. In a few years, peace returned to Hidden Sect Island. The disciples cultivated separately. Hanju was also focused on cultivating, tackling the late stage of the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. Although he was still far from breaking through, Hanju felt that it was not impossible to reach the pseudo-sage realm before the immeasurable calamity ended. Looking at the calamity's trend, who knew how long it would last? 40 years later, the Hidden Sect Island was attacked by an inauspicious evil that retreated an hour later again. Zhao Xinyuan couldn't help but become curious about Hidden Sect Island. Could this island be a Dharma treasure? On this day, Hanju, who was cultivating, was interrupted by a notification. Detected that the immortal world is filled with negative karma. A sage has forcefully entered the calamity, So all living beings will face the calamity. You have the following choices. 1. Enter the calamity immediately and challenge the sage. You can obtain a great Tao fragment. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner, and you can obtain a mystical power inheritance. A sage forcefully entered the calamity? So impressive? Hanju was secretly glad that he wasn't in the immortal world. Unfortunately, the reward for choice 2 did not have a great Tao fragment. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner, and obtained a mystical power inheritance. Congratulations on obtaining the Tao Destruction mystical power, Life of All. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Life of All. Tao Destruction mystical power, Destiny mystical power. Sacrifice one's cultivation and providence in exchange for the death of all living beings. The living beings here refer to those below the user's cultivation level, and can only be used under a certain heavenly Tao, or immeasurable calamity. The price is that one's cultivation level will decrease by a major realm. So cruel? However, dropping a major realm was too exaggerated. Furthermore, using this mystical power consumed providence. Furthermore, it could only destroy living beings below his cultivation level. It was a little useless. Forget it. He would learn it first. Having more skills did not burden him. Hanju began to inherit the Tao Destruction mystical power. Boom! A terrifying black pillar of light descended from the sky, and landed on the Cultivate Diligently Become Immortal mountain. The hidden sect disciples who were cultivating turned to look at the Khanate cave abode. Zhao Xuanyuan's eyes widened in fear. What's this? The black pillar of light terrified him, a deity realm existence. The black hell chicken looked at Chu Shuren and asked, "Why aren't you speaking? Tell everyone about it." Chu Shuren frowned, and did not answer. Clearly he didn't know either. In a dark hall, Li Muyi, who was meditating, suddenly opened his eyes. Tao Destruction? Who is it? Li Muyi frowned and started to deduce with his fingers. At this moment, two figures appeared in front of him. They were South Extreme Heavenly Venerate and Sect Master Tianju. Sect Master Tianju said, "Senior, do you feel it? Someone has comprehended a Tao Destruction mystical power at this juncture." South Extreme Heavenly Venerate snorted. "It must be Fuxician. This fellow forcefully entered the calamity, and used his cultivation as a sage to suppress the heavenly court. He's simply shameless. If he uses the Tao Destruction mystical power, he can destroy the world in one go, and end the immeasurable calamity." Li Muyi's expression darkened. The leaders of the three schools of the Tao sect had all entered the calamity. If Fuxician destroyed the world, their providence would be greatly damaged. As heavenly Tao sages, their providence would affect their cultivation. Although Li Muyi wasn't a heavenly Tao sage, his disciples were still facing the calamity. "In that case, all of you can enter the calamity too," Li Muyi said with a low voice. Hearing this, South Extreme Heavenly Venerate and Sect Master Tianju were moved. Sect Master Tianju frowned and said, "Once we enter the calamity, our killing intent will rise. We heavenly Tao sages will also fight to the death." Li Muyi said, "If you don't enter the calamity, we'll have to wait for Fuxician to devour our providence." South Extreme Heavenly Venerate said, "Perhaps it's not Fuxician. There's no need for him to comprehend such a damaging mystical power after entering the calamity. Fuxician doesn't have any backing." Li Muyi and Sect Master Tianju felt that it made sense and nodded. No matter who it is, they will determine the direction of the immeasurable calamity. I have to personally make a trip. Two heavenly Tao sages have grasped the Tao Destruction mystical power. Ask them. Li Muyi stood up and said with a solemn tone, "Immortal world, human race." On a huge altar, a human cultivator sat in a formation. Countless cultivators were meditating and stopping around the altar. Everyone's gaze descended onto a sea of clouds above the altar. Above the sea of clouds, golden light shone brightly. A figure was meditating and preaching, his Tao voice echoing through the world. This person wore a black and white robe, and had a dignified expression. He was the human race's sage Fuxician. Fuxician opened his eyes and frowned. Although he didn't open his mouth, his Tao voice echoed endlessly. "Tao Destruction mystical power. Who is it? Fuxishan pinched his fingers to deduce. Like Li Mui, he couldn't deduce that mysterious mighty figure. His heart sank. The Tao destruction mystical power could overturn all living beings. Even sages couldn't stop it. If the other party was a sage, he could destroy all living beings in the heavenly Tao with a thought, and the human race would also die. Then, everything he had done would be in vain. His own status would even become unstable as a sage. Damn it! I just entered the calamity and someone already comprehended a Tao destruction mystical power. Could it be that those two taught someone? Fuxishan frowned even harder, feeling extremely frustrated. Sages had calm minds, but when it involved their own cultivation, it was difficult for them to maintain their cool. Khanate Cave Abode. It took Hanju 7 days and 7 nights to master the Tao destruction mystical power. The black pillar of light on the peak of the mountain dissipated. How domineering, complicated, and useless. Hanju muttered to himself. His mood was average. Life of all sounded terrifying, but if Hanju used it, he could only kill living beings below the mid-stage golden immortal realm. It was meaningless. After using it, his cultivation level would fall to the deity realm. Hanju didn't want his cultivation realm to fall at all. If he used life of all after attaining the Tao, and became a sage, but directly fell to the pseudo-sage realm, his Tao heart would explode. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he absolutely couldn't use this mystical power. He continued to cultivate. Little did he know that the circle of the heavenly Tao sages was already in chaos. In a strong light, the 9 figures sat together. They were all in the light, not allowing their true appearance to be seen. Fuxishan was the first to speak. Which fellow Taoist has comprehended the recent Tao destruction mystical power? Although we heavenly Tao sages are fighting, we are only plotting. Sect Master Tianju snorted. It's probably not the 9 of us. It should be a puppet supported by a fellow Taoist. After all, such a mystical power will threaten the sage's position too. The sages spoke one after another. The Tao ancestor only taught Qiushilai and Taoist fated secrets the Tao destruction mystical power. It can only be the 2 of you plotting. Our Buddhist sect preached the Tao to the myriad heavens. How can we use the Tao destruction mystical power to threaten our lineage? I won't either. My inheritance has long left the immortal world. Why would I want to be affected by great karma? Ever since the Tao ancestor left, there have been several immeasurable calamities. No Tao destruction mystical power has appeared. This is not normal. We have to be careful. Chapter 439 World Savior, Hanju's Vow. Chapter 439 World Savior, Hanju's Vow. 10 years passed. Khanate Cave Abode. Hanju was still cultivating. He didn't know that the sages were suspecting each other, because he had comprehended the Tao destruction mystical power. There was only cultivation in his eyes. He had even forgotten about life of all. This mystical power was inconsistent with his Tao heart. He almost had no chance to use it. It was fine to learn it, but there was no need to think about it further. On this day, since Hanju had nothing to do, he started to read the emails. Your good friend Heavenly Emperor has devoured negative karma, and his cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Heavenly Emperor was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your disciple Su Qi has broken through the heavenly Tao shackles and entered the immortal world. Your good friend Ji Xianxian was attacked by human cultivators, X450021. Your disciple Long Hao was attacked by your good friend Zhou Fan, and was severely injured. Your good friend Zhou Fan was attacked by your good friend Long Hao and was severely injured. Your good friend Li Daokong was attacked by a heavenly Tao sage, and was severely injured. Your good friend Duan Hongqian received a dream from a sage. His cultivation has increased greatly. Heavenly Tao sage. Apart from Li Daokong, many of the heavenly court's good friends were attacked by sages. All of them were severely injured, but no one died. Hanju was suddenly worried about the heavenly emperor. The heavenly emperor was surrounded by negative karma. If he was attacked by a sage, he would definitely die. As for Su Qi, why did this kid return to the immortal world? He wanted to leave during peace, but when it was chaotic, he insisted on returning. In conclusion, he was courting death. If a sage took action, the calamity shouldn't last long. Xiao wants to visit you in your dreams. Do you accept? A notification suddenly appeared in front of Hanju. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Damn. Again? Do you want to eat shit? Hanju cursed in his heart, and could only ignore the request. However, this dog kept sending dreams. Soon a year passed. He was still sending dreams. This fellow had already sent it millions of times. He was insane. Can you block him? Hanju couldn't take it anymore and asked in his mind. Not for the time being. Karma must be shown. Hanju wanted to vomit blood. The system was so advanced, but it couldn't even do this. Holy shit. Damn it. You win. I accept it. I want to see what you have to say. Hanju thought silently. He seriously suspected that Xiao would never stop sending dreams until the end of time. I want to know, will I face danger if I accept the dream? Hanju asked in his heart. 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. The Tao field is isolated from the dark forbidden zone. The other party can only communicate. The system can help you leave the dream realm at any time. Hanju raised his eyebrows and immediately accepted the dream. Soon he entered the dream realm. This was a dazzling temple hall. In front of him was a majestic and imposing 10,000-foot-tall Buddha. Xiao. It looked like a golden Buddha statue, not a living being. Hanju suppressed his anger and looked at him, pretending to be confused. Xiao has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 1 star. Not bad. When Hanju saw the favorability, his anger decreased by more than half. The reason why it did not decrease completely was that he only had 1 star of favorability. Hanju didn't speak first and waited for Xiao to speak. After a while, Xiao finally said slowly, Hanju. Hanju looked at the Buddha statue in shock. Stop pretending. You've already discovered me. Cough cough. I wonder if you are. Hanju asked awkwardly, also thinking about his intentions. Xiao said, the immeasurable calamity has begun. Someone wants to destroy all living beings. All living beings are in trouble. You are the variable of the heavenly Tao that the Tao ancestor has determined. I came to you because I hope that you can become a savior. If you agree, I will quickly raise you to the pseudo-sage realm and impart you a supreme treasure. Hanju frowned and said, I don't want to be a savior. I just want to cultivate well. You're in the dark forbidden zone? In any case, sages couldn't spy on the dark forbidden zone. Hanju wasn't afraid of being exposed. Xiao said, if you succeed in saving the world, you can obtain immeasurable merit, and even a chance to attain the Tao. You can become a heavenly Tao sage, and surpass all living beings. You will no longer be troubled by the immeasurable calamity. Otherwise, even if you survive this immeasurable calamity, when the next one comes, will you continue to hide? One day, the dark forbidden zone will no longer be a safe place for you. The longer you stay in it, the more the inauspicious evil will affect you. In the future, it will be difficult for you to return. The heavenly Tao will resist you. Hanju said, Senior, give me some time to think. This is very important. Xiao said, all right. In addition, if the human race's sage Fuxician looks for you, ignore him. He's preparing to clean up all living beings. Don't be used by him. All right. Xiao raised his hand and the dream shattered. Hanju's consciousness returned to the cave abode. He cursed. Dream on if you want me to be a savior. He had thought that Xiao had something urgent to tell him, but it was just pointless talk. In the future, no matter how he begged Hanju to come by disturbing him, he would no longer accept dreams from this guy. Hanju shook his head and continued cultivating 5 years later. Another person sent him a dream. This time, it wasn't a heavenly Tao sage but the heavenly emperor. Hanju naturally agreed to the heavenly emperor's dream. He wondered how the heavenly emperor was doing. Hanju entered the dream realm again. The heavenly emperor's dream was still the forest outside the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. After returning to this forest, Hanju sighed. He felt that things had changed. What a nostalgic heavenly emperor. Hanju saw the heavenly emperor. He was dressed in a black robe, and there was a murderous aura between his brows. He looked like a demon, and no longer had the sacred prestige of the past. The Heavenly Emperor sized him up and smiled. I can't even see through you anymore. It seems that your cultivation level is becoming stronger. What's your cultivation level now? Have you reached the 6th mystic divine origin realm? Hanju smiled bitterly. Your Majesty, you really think highly of me. How can I cultivate so fast? The Heavenly Emperor chuckled. That's true. How have you been, Your Majesty? The Heavenly Tao is chasing me away. Recently, there have been rumors in the immortal world that a sage is about to destroy the world. I'm here to remind you not to return to the immortal world, lest you encounter any mishaps. Thank you for your reminder, Your Majesty. I definitely won't return. What about you? Aren't you going to withdraw? I can't retreat. I'm surrounded by negative karma. Once I leave, I'll be found by the inauspicious evil of the dark forbidden zone. My outcome will be even worse. I can only continue fighting. Hanju frowned. He didn't know what to say. Any consolation was meaningless. He couldn't directly help the Heavenly Emperor. The Heavenly Emperor continued. This calamity has been pushed by a sage. I'm afraid it will end soon. Help me contact the Dark Forbidden Lord. Stunned, Hanju asked in surprise. How can I contact the Dark Forbidden Lord? The Heavenly Emperor walked forward and asked with a faint smile. Are you really not related to the Dark Forbidden Lord? It was very difficult for him to believe that Hanju was the Dark Forbidden Lord, but he was definitely related to him. If that wasn't the case, why would the Dark Forbidden Lord help him? He couldn't think of any other reason. I really don't know him. Should I ask Feng Liang? Hanju smiled bitterly. Really, if I lie to His Majesty, I will never become a Heavenly Tao sage. Chapter 440 Darkness shrouds the heavens. The Dark Forbidden Lord appears. Chapter 440 Darkness shrouds the heavens. The Dark Forbidden Lord appears. Hearing Hanju's vow, the Heavenly Emperor frowned and said, There's no need to make such a serious vow. Fate exists in the world. Be careful not to cause trouble with words. Hanju said seriously, I know. I'm telling the truth. I don't want to become a Heavenly Tao sage anyway. I want to surpass the Heavenly Tao and become a free and unrestrained sage. The Heavenly Emperor was secretly puzzled. Am I thinking too much? He understood Hanju's personality. This kid only had the goal of cultivating. How could he destroy his own future? Could it be that Hanju was really unrelated to the Dark Forbidden Lord? The Heavenly Emperor's suspicions towards Hanju vanished. If the Dark Forbidden Lord had nothing to do with Hanju, he must be targeting him instead. The Heavenly Emperor reminded him. Then, you have to be careful of the Dark Forbidden Lord. This person's background is mysterious, and his intentions are difficult to guess. Hanju said, I understand. I've also heard of his deeds. Could he be arranged by a sage? The Heavenly Emperor shook his head. It's unfathomable. Don't trust any sage. I'm already a thorn in the eyes of the sages. If not for the fact that I belong to the true dragon race and the Tao ancestors' lineage, I'm afraid the sages would have long attacked me. Hanju nodded. The two of them continued to chat. The Heavenly Emperor recounted his recent experiences. He didn't hide anything and recounted his situation. Hanju felt heartache. The Heavenly Emperor was once the high-spirited master of the Heavenly Court, the Emperor of the immortal gods. He was high and mighty. In just a short calamity, the Heavenly Emperor had been treated like a street rat. The Heavenly Emperor was still fine. Looking at the Demon Emperor, the Heavenly Tao Buddha, Zhu Tu, Jade Emperor Zhou Yan, and the others, all of them had perished. It was a pity. Hanju had a deeper understanding of the term immeasurable calamity. As long as he wanted to fight, he had to enter the calamity. Entering the calamity, fortune and misfortune were unknown. With good fortune, he would soar into the sky and live as long as the world. If there was trouble, both body and soul would be destroyed, never to rise again. The Heavenly Emperor looked at him and said with a burning gaze, Hanju, I've done everything I can for you. I don't ask you to repay me. I only want you to return this favor to the Heavenly Court. If the next calamity descends, and the Heavenly Court faces the danger of extinction, I hope you can help save it. Hanju asked, What if the heavenly court can't survive this calamity? The heavenly emperor shook his head. No, I have an agreement with the sages. Regardless of success or failure, the heavenly court will be preserved at least after this calamity. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Hanju replied. Alright, I promise you. If I have the ability, I will definitely help. Before the next calamity, Hanju might have already successfully attained the Tao. It shouldn't be difficult for him to protect the heavenly court. Of course, if he really couldn't keep it, there was nothing he could do. My Tao field can isolate the inauspicious evil. Are you willing to come? Hanju asked. The heavenly emperor shook his head. I won't trouble you anymore. I have to fight and can't stop. Thank you for your kind intentions. I didn't treat you so well in vain. Hanju asked, then your children? Ignore them. Everyone has their own fate. I have long chosen their own backing. Even if heavenly court falls, they will be safe. Fine. The two of them chatted for a while more. After ending the dream, Hanju realized that he had returned to reality. He didn't calculate the heavenly emperor's future. Now that the sages controlled the lives of all living beings in the world, Hanju couldn't curse the sages, right? Not only would it be useless on the sages, but it would also attract their attention. It wasn't impossible for sages to find the person who had cursed them. Hanju suddenly thought of his forgotten subordinates, Shuemingyi and Jing Tiangong. It was time to find them. Hanju decided to pull the two of them into the dream realm and let them meet. However, before that, he still had to deduce it to prevent any mighty figures around them. Using up 1 billion years of his lifespan, Hanju was relieved after confirming that there were no mighty figures around the two of them. No residential ARN. Dark Nightmare, activate. Hanju pulled the two of them into a dark cave. This scene was very suitable for the atmosphere of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Shuemingyi and Jing Tiangong hurriedly knelt down and bowed when they saw the Dark Forbidden Lord. They were very excited. The Dark Forbidden Lord was finally looking for them. Shuemingyi was the first to ask, Forbidden Lord, the calamity is clear. The humans and the heavenly court will definitely decide the winner. Are we still supporting the heavenly court? Jing Tiangong also stared at him. Hanju asked, do you have your own motives? Shuemingyi and Jing Tiangong looked at each other. They had long been in the dark. They were both followers of the Dark Forbidden Lord and would naturally help each other. The Jie School and the Darkness Sects Alliance made both sides benefit greatly. Shuemingyi said, since a sage entered the calamity, we only want to protect ourselves. Jing Tiangong nodded. They all supported the heavenly court and had fought with the humans. Facing Fuxician's powerful strength, their ambitions had been crushed. They only wanted to protect themselves. Hanju said, if you want to protect yourselves, it's up to you. Don't be controlled by the killing intent. Shuemingyi frowned. Jing Tiangong asked, Forbidden Lord, when will you appear? Do you have a way to deal with sages? Shuemingyi nodded. They were all looking forward to Hanju's move. They believed that the Dark Forbidden Lord was definitely a sage. At the very least, even sages couldn't find him. Hanju's heart raced. Show myself? What are you thinking? I don't want to enter the calamity. Hanju pretended to think deeply, and then said, when the darkness shrouds the heavens, it will be the time when the Dark Forbidden Lord appears. That will also be the time when I control everything. The current calamity is not my time. The true calamity has just begun. All of you must wait. Follow me sincerely. If I appear, I will definitely not mistreat you. Shuemingyi and Jing Tiangong immediately became excited. Although the Dark Forbidden Lord was promising a bright future, he had summoned the two of them at the same time. It was obvious that he wanted to say something. When the darkness shrouds the heavens, just the thought alone made them excited. The Dark Forbidden Lord was ambitious. Jing Tiangong asked, then, should we follow the heavenly court now? Hanju said, follow. Don't watch with folded arms. No matter who wins or loses in this calamity, the winner will suffer heavy losses. Next is the battle of the sages. The humans and the heavenly court will soon leave the stage. The two of them nodded. They had also seen this sign. Hanju didn't say anything else and ended the dream. Inside the Khanate cave abode, Hanju opened his eyes. He actually didn't think much of Xue Mingyi and Jing Tiangong. He was only slightly concerned. After all, the two of them worshipped him, because they wanted to fight for providence, continue cultivating and break through to the late stage. Hanju perked up and thought silently. Time passed. The dark forbidden zone was forever silent. About 37 years passed. Boom! Hidden Sect Island shook violently. Hanju opened his eyes and thought that the inauspicious evil was attacking again. Immediately after, he suddenly felt a terrifying pressure facing his soul. Before this pressure, even he, a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, instinctively felt fear. It wasn't the inauspicious evil. Hanju subconsciously checked the surrounding enemies. Fuxishan, Cultivation Unknown, Heavenly Dao Sage, Human Race Emperor. South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Cultivation Unknown, Heavenly Dao Sage, Sect Master of the Chan School. The sages were fighting? Almost frightened to death, Hanju hurriedly controlled the Hidden Sect Island to leave this place. Chapter 441 The Might of the Dao Destruction Mystical Power. Chapter 441 The Might of the Dao Destruction Mystical Power. When Hidden Sect Island flew out of the Sage battlefield, Hanju successfully copied Fuxishan and the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate's strength to prepare for challenging the sages in the future. Ancestor Shitian was too strong. Hanju couldn't gain any experience from fighting him. He needed to challenge an ordinary sage. Soon, Hidden Sect Island stopped trembling as it left the sages' battlefield. At first, Hanju was worried that the sages had come for him. Now it seemed that that was not the case. Why is Fuxishan fighting with the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate? Hanju asked in his mind. He was afraid that these two sages were acting. 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. To fight for providence, they both contain killing intent. Hanju raised his eyebrows. In other words, these two sages were not acting. They were really fighting. He heaved a sigh of relief. As long as it was not a plot against him. Hidden Sect Island continued to fly for several months before Hanju stopped it. This time he was far away from the two sages. I want to know if Hidden Sect Island was discovered by other living beings other than the people on the island? Hanju asked in his mind. 1 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. Hanju completely relaxed and smiled. The strange deity came over and started to rub against him. Hanju instructed it to massage him. After a long time, the strange deity had already gotten used to this. It even felt that this was something it should do. Hanju closed his eyes and muttered to himself. Oh you, when will you grow up? The strange deity didn't reply. Its intelligence hadn't increased for a long time. It could understand some of Hanju's intentions, but it couldn't communicate. That was good. This was to prevent it from thinking of escaping Hanju, when it was really mature, and had its own thoughts. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. For the next period of time, Hanju checked his surroundings from time to time, afraid that the sages would come again. In the blink of an eye, another 50 years passed. The sages no longer appeared around the Dao field. It had been 500 years since Hanju broke through. However, he was still a distance away from the late-stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. As expected of the Zenith Heaven Realm, it seemed that cultivating it fully in 2,000 years was completely wishful thinking. Not long ago, the Hidden Sect's 100-year competition had just ended. Because Zhao Xianyuan was the only deity realm existence, Hanju arranged for him to fight with Lu Bu and Ma Chao. In the end, Zhao Xianyuan became depressed. He actually couldn't defeat the guards. These two were Hanju's subordinates. Therefore, Zhao Xianyuan cultivated madly and simulated the trial. He didn't mention what had happened to him. But the others were stimulated. Even the geniuses of the deity realm were so hardworking. How could they relax? For a time, the fighting atmosphere in Hidden Sect Island became more and more intense. Inside the Khanate cave abode, Hanju was reading the emails. The sages appeared more and more frequently. Even his good friend Xiushilai was attacked by them. Chaos. The entire world was in chaos. At that moment, he suddenly sensed the chaotic domain's summoning. It was probably Dao Sovereign again. Hanju had nothing to do, so he headed to the chaotic domain. After entering the chaotic domain, Hanju met Dao Sovereign and Zhou Fan. Dao Sovereign said directly, "Brother, save us." Hanju asked, "Location enemy." 9 Heavens Hanging Mountain, the sage of the Buddhist sect Qiu Lai. "Just wait for your death." "No, brother." "Then tell me, who should I look for?" "Find Fuxishan." "How?" Hanju was speechless. He felt that Dao Sovereign was nuts. Zhou Fan said, "You can ask Heavenly Emperor Feng to find Fuxishan." Now the humans and the heavenly court are trembling under the pressure of a sage. There's a possibility that they will face a common enemy. Hanju asked in surprise, "How can the humans and heavenly court be united against a common enemy? Even if they join forces, they are only cannon fodder in front of the sages." Zhou Fan said, "There are rumors that a certain sage is preparing to destroy all living beings in the world. At that time, all living beings below the sage will die. The human race and the heavenly court will be in turmoil and will naturally ally." Hanju was stunned. Why did this sound so much like the Tao Destruction mystical power? Could it be that sages also possess the Tao Destruction mystical power? Hanju immediately asked in his mind, "Who among the heavenly Tao sages has a Tao Destruction mystical power?" 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Among the heavenly Tao sages, 2 have grasped the Tao Destruction mystical power. They are Qiu Lai and Sage Fated Secrets. Indeed, Hanju suddenly felt a sense of danger. If a sage used the Tao Destruction mystical power, wouldn't he also die? Fuck. Back when he had comprehended life of all, why didn't he think of this? The more Hanju thought about it, the more uneasy he became. Zhou Fan asked, "Senior, do you agree to help?" Hanju asked back, "What can I get?" Dao Sovereign replied, "After this matter is over, I will join you. Like Zhao Xianyuan, I will serve you from now on." Fine. Hanju left after saying that. He felt uneasy after returning to the Khanate cave abode. Damn it! The effect of this Tao Destruction mystical power was indeed different when it appeared in the hands of others. Hanju thought that it was useless before, but now that he thought about it, it was simply too terrifying. However, sages shouldn't dare to use it rashly. Who wants to lose a major realm? Hanju thought silently. If they used it to clean up all living beings, they would definitely offend other sages. After all, the teachings of the sages were all in the immortal world. At that time, the user would lose a major realm. It was no different from waiting for death. Hanju asked in his mind, "If the sage uses the Tao Destruction mystical power, will I die? 1 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" Continue. Not for the time being. The Tao field is far from the calamity and the heavenly Tao. None of the living beings in the Tao field will die. Hanju widened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. He was almost frightened to death. In that case, either Qiu Lai or Sage Fated Secrets must be wanting to cause trouble. Hanju frowned and thought. When he thought of the heavenly emperor, Su Qi, Xian Qingjun, Feng Liang, Zhou Fan, and the others, Hanju hesitated again. Should he do something? Forget it. He decided to wait and see. He couldn't provoke a sage unless it was absolutely necessary. Hanju asked in his mind, "I want to know if Qiu Lai and Sage Fated Secrets want to use the Tao Destruction mystical power? 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" Continue. Neither sage has a motive for the time being. Hanju smiled again. He had a bold thought. Could it be that his epiphany of the Tao Destruction mystical power had been sensed by the sages? It was really possible. How could the sages not suspect each other when an unknown existence comprehended a Tao Destruction mystical power? This is also good. The Tao Destruction mystical power is a killing machine. In the future, if anyone wants to deal with me and is forced into a corner, I will use life of all to threaten them. As long as they don't want to destroy their own lineage, they will definitely not dare to provoke me. Hanju thought silently. Although he wanted to, it was best not to expose this mystical power. It would attract too much hatred. Hanju took out the Heavenly Tao token and contacted Feng Liang. Soon the divine sense connection was successful. Hanju asked, "I have something to ask of you." Fang Liang did not answer. Hanju sensed that something was wrong and asked, "Are you still there?" A deep voice sounded, "Yes." Damn it. Hanju directly severed his divine sense connection. This voice was definitely not Fang Liang's. Chapter 442 Fang Clan, Cursing a Sage. Chapter 442 Fang Clan. Cursing a Sage. Hanju wondered who the voice belonged to. He had never heard of it before. Could it be a sage? Hanju's heart trembled. He immediately used the derivation function to ask. 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Fang Huangjun, cultivation unknown. Clan leader of the Fang clan, eh? Fang clan? Hanju first thought of Fang Liang. They were both surnamed Fang. Could it be that Fang Liang was from the Fang clan? However, Fang Liang's background did not mention the Fang clan. Hanju continued to ask, what's Fang Liang's relationship with the Fang clan? 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Fang Liang is the Fang clan's ancestor. Ancestor. So awesome? Hanju suddenly thought of how Fang Liang had transmigrated many times. Gone back to create a clan. He really knew how to play. Hanju was secretly shocked that the Fang clan actually had a pseudo-sage. The immortal world was truly filled with hidden talents. It was mainly because the immortal world was too big, and he could only observe through emails, so he still could not understand the entire situation. Since he was Fang Liang's descendant, he could contact him. Hanju took out the Heavenly Dao token and contacted Fang Huangjun again. Soon the divine sense connection was successful. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Fang Huangjun asked. Yes. Hanju said, something happened just now. Is Heavenly Emperor Fang there? He's not here. You're his grandmaster, right? He said that you can look for me if you need anything. Hanju told him about Dao Sovereign and Zhou Fan's request. Fang Huangjun replied, I'll tell Heavenly Emperor Fang. The two of them fell silent. Hanju was about to sever the divine sense connection when Fang Huangjun suddenly asked, May I know who you are? I'm Fang Huangjun, the leader of the Fang clan in the deity realm of the Ruins of End. We also have a branch family in the immortal world. Deity realm of the Ruins of End. No wonder he had never heard of them. Hanju said, Eastern Wu Divine World Sun Quan. Eastern Wu Divine World? Why haven't I heard of it? There is always something you don't know. Do you dare to say that you understand all the worlds? True. Fang Huangjun fell into deep thought. Hanju didn't say anything else, and severed his divine sense connection. Good kid. I didn't expect him to be so generous. But won't he attract the attention of the sages by doing this? Hanju frowned and thought. How could a sage agree to casually travel through time and create his own force? Sages knew the past and the future. Transcending time and space was like child's play in their eyes. Wait, could it be that the Dao ancestor was secretly helping Fang Liang? It was very likely. After all, the Dao ancestor had already chosen Fang Liang as his successor. It seemed that Hanju didn't have to worry about Fang Liang. This kid was tough. Even Fang Liang knows how to set up schemes. Looks like I have to pay more attention. Hanju thought silently. The path of the great Dao was not something that he could do as he pleased, just because his cultivation was strong enough. After Dao Sovereign was saved and joined Hidden Sect Island, the lineup of geniuses would be very magnificent. The number one prodigy of the Golden Crow Divine Clan. The strongest son of heaven and earth. The strongest prodigy of the Divine Palace. The number one prodigy of the human race. Buddhist Sex Buddha. The hope of the Magus race. Wait. When these disciples grew up, they would definitely be experts in the future with world-shattering might. What Hanju wanted to do was to keep his cultivation ahead of theirs and control them. After thinking about it, Hanju continued to cultivate. He had to break through to the late stage of the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm first. 30 years passed. Hanju was finally close to the late stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm and had a chance to break through. He was in a good mood. Indeed, breaking through was the happiest thing. He checked his emails as he cultivated. There were battles everywhere. He suddenly saw an email. Your good friend Xiao Shilai was attacked by a heavenly Dao sage. X3 surrounded? How tragic. He continued reading and saw another email. Your disciple Su Qi has obtained the inheritance of a sage and has learned the Tao destruction mystical power. He has alerted the heavenly Tao. Tao destruction mystical power. The sage here didn't mention Xiao Shilai, so it could only be sage fated secrets. How ruthless. This old thing wanted to use Su Qi to slaughter all living beings. At the mention of Su Qi, Hanju suddenly thought of something. Previously, a sage wanted to use Su Qi to approach him. Sage Jinlan. This person seems to be a golden immortal of the Jie school? Wait, there were 2 heavenly Tao sages in the Jie school? Hanju immediately recalled the information about the sage Jinan. Jinan cultivation unknown. Heavenly Tao sage, immeasurable emperor, one of the golden immortals of the Jie school. Because he deduced that Su Qi has karma with you, he especially led him to wander around the dark forbidden zone, wanting to bump into you. That's right, he was a heavenly Tao sage. In other words, 7 heavenly Tao sages had appeared already. Nuwa Fuxishan, South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Qiu Shilai, Sect Master Tianju, Sage Fated Secrets and Sage Jinan. There were 2 unknowns left. Could Sage Fated Secrets have some secret dealings with the Jie school? No. Hanju couldn't tolerate others using his disciple. Su Qi's fate was full of trouble. He helped Hanju eliminate many enemies and rarely troubled him. Hanju's heart ached for such a disciple. I want to know why Sage Fated Secrets taught Su Qi the Tao destruction mystical power. Hanju asked in his mind. 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Hanju's consciousness entered the illusion. It was a dark void. 2 figures were gathered here. Hanju couldn't see their true appearance. One of them said, Fated Secrets have you chosen? Sage Fated Secrets replied, not for the time being. Karma is complicated in the calamity. It's not easy to make a move. I have one here. He doesn't have a powerful background. He was originally a disciple of the Jie school, and later joined the heavenly court as a jinx. Now he has severed karma with the heavenly court and the Jie school. He's also related to the variable that the Tao ancestor has determined. He can take on this great responsibility. Will this offend the variable? That person has always been in seclusion. How can he know our plan? I guess he doesn't think highly of the jinx. Even if the jinx dies, he won't care. Bring me to see him. If it's suitable, he will destroy the world. The illusion shattered. Hanju showed a frown. It was indeed a conspiracy. He knew that Su Qi was related to him, and even wanted to harm him. How could Hanju tolerate this? Should he visit Su Qi in his dreams to wake him up? No, this would alert the enemy. Will I be discovered if I curse the heavenly Tao sage with the Book of Misfortune? Hanju asked in his mind. No, the Book of Misfortune is not affected by karma. The Tao field isolates heavenly Tao level divine sense. This was not the first time Hanju asked this. He was mainly cheering himself on. In that case, he would curse the sage as a warning. Hanju suppressed the strange deity in the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus, and took out the Book of Misfortune to curse Sage Fated Secrets. He didn't want to cause harm, only fear. In a Taoist temple, a huge candlelight flickered and shone on Sage Fated Secrets. His figure looked so tiny. Sage Fated Secrets wore a dark green Taoist robe. His hair was black and white, and he had a calm expression. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and pinched his fingers to deduce. He smiled. There's actually someone who dares to curse a sage. I can't deduce it. It must be the work of another sage. Sage Fated Secrets muttered to himself as his eyes flickered. Chapter 443 Su Qi's Master. Chapter 443 Su Qi's Master Hanju only cursed Sage Fated Secrets for 5 days. In any case, he couldn't curse him to death. He just had to play mind games in the future. How many years had it been? He could finally curse an enemy again. Hanju almost forgot how it felt to curse someone. As usual, he would curse once every 10 years. He's probably still guessing who cursed him. He might even guess that it's another sage. Hanju thought silently. Although it was sinister to do this behind his back, it was really satisfying. Hanju could only pray that Su Qi would survive this. Once Su Qi used the Tao destruction mystical power, he would definitely die. The sages would definitely not let him go. As for whether the sage-fated secrets would protect him, that was difficult to say. He continued to cultivate. In the numinous palace, Fang Liang sat on the emperor's throne. Li Daokong, Li Xianao, Huang Jihao, and the others stood in the hall. One of the domineering men asked, "Your Majesty, why isn't the sage here yet?" This person was Fang Huangjun, the leader of the Fang clan. Li Xianao snorted. "He's a sage. He definitely has to put on airs." Huang Jihao broke out in cold sweat. These sages' disciples were truly daring. How could they dare to talk about the sages like this? Fang Liang's expression did not change, as he continued waiting in silence. 5 minutes later, 2 figures flew into the numinous palace. The person in front was Sage-Fated Secrets. He had an immortal aura and an unfathomable temperament. Following behind Sage-Fated Secrets was a ball of demonic aura. The demonic aura dissipated, and a black-robed man appeared. Fang Liang was slightly moved when he saw the man in black. "Uncle Master Su Qi." Fang Liang frowned in surprise. "If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks." Su Qi narrowed his eyes when he saw him. The two of them only looked at each other, and did not greet each other. Fang Liang stood up and bowed. The others did the same. Facing a sage, the heavenly emperor had to bow. Sage-Fated Secrets said, "This person behind me is called Su Qi. He was once the jinx of the heavenly court. He obtained my true teachings, and will serve the heavenly court from now on." Fang Liang smiled. "Thank you for your support, sage." Li Xianao frowned and asked, "He's only an immortal emperor. What can he help us with? The heavenly court doesn't lack immortal emperors." Su Qi said calmly, "I'm not only an immortal emperor. If you're not convinced, do you dare to take a palm strike from me?" Li Xianao smiled. He immediately stepped forward and said, "Come, I'll take your palm strike. I won't fight back." Li Daokong stared at Su Qi in deep thought. Su Qi didn't stand on ceremony, and prepared to raise his palm. "Forget it, His Majesty can accept him," Li Daokong suddenly said. When Su Qi heard that, he immediately put down his raised right hand. Li Xianao was immediately displeased, but he believed that Li Daokong had his reasons. Sage-Fated Secrets nodded and said, "Don't worry about the human sages. They will be dealt with by the sages." With that, Sage-Fated Secrets vanished from the hall. Fang Liang looked at Su Qi and smiled. "Uncle Master, long time no see." "Uncle Master." Everyone was shocked. Su Qi's cold face also showed a smile. "How did you become the heavenly emperor?" Fang Liang sat down again and sighed. "It's a long story. Why did you become the disciple of a sage? Does Grandmaster know?" At the mention of Han Ju, Su Qi looked helpless and said, "I don't know. To be honest, I don't know how to face him." Li Xianao came back to his senses. Su Qi was Fang Liang's uncle master. Wasn't he that person's disciple? He recalled the day when he faced Han Ju's great freedom heaven imprisoning palm, and couldn't help but palpitate. He didn't forget the scene of Li Daokong being forced back by Han Ju's sword. Fang Huangjun couldn't help but recall his experience using the heavenly Dao token to contact Han Ju. "Sun Quan, who are you and how strong are you?" Li Daokong stared at Su Qi and said, "You give me a very similar feeling to the inauspicious evil." Su Qi glanced at him and replied calmly, "I've absorbed them." Li Xianao and Fang Huangjun were moved. Absorption of the inauspicious evil. Li Xianao's eyelids twitched. He suddenly understood why Li Daokong stopped him from taking Su Qi's palm. The power of the inauspicious evil was strange and terrifying, not something he could withstand. "I'll arrange for a place for you to stay. Let's chat somewhere else." Fang Liang smiled. Su Qi nodded slightly. Another 10 years passed. "Your disciple Su Qi has joined the heavenly court, and his providence has transformed." Han Ju raised his eyebrows when he saw this email. It seemed that Sage-Fated Secrets also supported Su Qi. Han Ju decided to visit him in his dreams. Before that, he used the derivation function to ask if Su Qi was being controlled by a sage. After spending 1,000,000,000 years of his lifespan, and confirming that Su Qi was still him, Han Ju dreamed. Su Qi's favorability towards him had not decreased. He shouldn't have changed his mind. Soon the two of them entered a dream. The dream depicted the Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain of the Jade Pure Sacred Sect. The sky was blue, and the immortal Qi was ethereal. When Su Qi saw Hanju, he couldn't help but be stunned. Hanju was expressionless and said, "Aren't you kneeling down after seeing your master?" Su Qi came back to his senses, and immediately knelt down. "Greetings, master." A storm brewed in Su Qi's heart. What kind of mystical power was this? He actually forcefully dragged him into a dream. He couldn't help but think of the methods of sage-fated secrets. Could it be that Hanju was also a sage? It was very likely. Thinking about it carefully, Hanju did not seek opportunities. He had been cultivating in seclusion, but the difference between him and them was becoming greater and greater. This did not make sense. Su Qi was also experienced, and knew that his breakthrough speed was already very exaggerated. If news of this spread, who wouldn't be dumbfounded? Hanju asked, "You've recently obtained a huge opportunity. Your providence has changed, and so has your karma. Do you know what's behind this opportunity?" Su Qi fell into deep thought. After a while, he looked up and asked, "Does Master know something? Please remind me." Hanju said, "I don't know who gave you the great opportunity, but in the calamity, any reward is part of a scheme." He had to pretend not to know about the sage's existence in case anyone read Su Qi's memories. Su Qi's expression darkened. "Master, I obtained a mystical power that can destroy all living beings below my cultivation level. The price is a major realm loss." Hanju pretended to be shocked and said, "There's such a mystical power? Then, don't use it easily. Destroying all living beings involves too much karma. Wait, who taught you this mystical power? You've already learned it, that person definitely knows it too. Why wouldn't he use it himself?" Su Qi said, "He's afraid of bearing karma and dropping a major realm." Hanju remained silent. Su Qi fell silent. The master and disciple had their own thoughts. Hanju was thinking about how to persuade Su Qi. Su Qi was thinking about what sage-fated secrets wanted to do. He trusted Hanju more than sage-fated secrets. Hanju specially came to remind him that there was definitely a huge conspiracy. Su Qi wasn't stupid. Hanju had definitely deduced sage-fated secrets. It was just that it was difficult to point it out, and he was afraid of being targeted by the sage. In his impression, Hanju was omnipotent. Since he could predict that he would be schemed against by a sage, it meant that Hanju already had a way to deal with it. Su Qi asked, "Master, what should I do? I'm afraid I can't escape from that person's control." Hanju thought for a moment and said, "Pretend that you don't know his plot. It's fine as long as you don't cull the living beings. My disciple, the karma of this matter is too great. You might even offend a sage. Don't take action so easily." Chapter 444 Miserable Destiny, Favorability of the Ancestor. Chapter 444 Miserable Destiny, Favorability of the Ancestor. After hearing Hanju's words, Su Qi nodded in agreement. He had felt that something was wrong when he had grasped the Tao destruction mystical power. Why would a sage teach him such a powerful mystical power? He must be using him. It was impossible for him to teach it, and not let him use it. Hanju asked, "Do you want to come back now?" If Su Qi was willing to return, Hanju would directly go and take him in. If he offended a sage, so be it. In any case, the other party wouldn't be able to find the Tao field. Su Qi was silent. Hanju wanted to curse when he saw that. What was wrong with these people? All of them knew that their bodies might be crushed in front of them, but they still wanted to fight to the death. Hanju even suspected that there will have been changed by the calamity. Su Qi sighed. "Master, I have my own goals. I'm not being led around. This time, when I return to the immortal world, I want to use the heavenly Tao merit to wash away my fate. I don't want to be the god of misfortune. If I go back with you and don't want to affect my fellow disciples, I'll be suppressed by the array formation. I don't want to live like that." Hanju also fell silent. That was the truth. If he was Su Qi, he wouldn't want to do that. Hanju had also re-rolled the corresponding Khanate providence when he was young, but he had immediately skipped it. In that case, it's up to you. But if you die, do you have any last wishes? Hanju smiled and asked casually. Su Qi also smiled. He no longer felt the pressure from before and was relieved. He smiled and said, I definitely have regrets, but I don't need to trouble you, Master. I'm already prepared for anything. I won't regret it even if I die. It's just that I won't have a chance to repay you in this life. Thinking back, Su Qi felt mixed emotions. If he didn't meet Hanju, he would probably still be floating in the cycle of reincarnation. He might even die several times in the immeasurable calamity. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. The master and disciple chatted for a while more before the dream ended. Su Qi smiled and watched Hanju leave as the dream chattered. Back in the cave abode, Hanju opened his eyes, and they flashed coldly. The more open-minded Su Qi was, the more uncomfortable he felt. Although this uncomfortable feeling was not enough to make him lose his mind, he was still a little angry. Su Qi was really the most tragic person. Because of misfortune, everyone he encountered was bound to suffer misfortune, and he would forever shoulder guilt and sins. In the long run, he would be annihilated by the heavenly Tao. Ever since he was born, he was destined to be destroyed. It was futile no matter how he struggled. Su Qi thought that Hanju was someone who treated him well. However, Hanju knew that the reason why he treated him well was actually a lie. He hated Su Qi at first and even used him. It had been more than 7,000 years. How many enemies had Su Qi dealt with for him? The heavenly emperor had done nothing to him, but so had Su Qi. In the entire hidden sect, other than Xing Hongxian, Su Qi had done the most for Hanju. Forget it. I'll save you if I can. If not, I can only leave you in my memories. Hanju thought firmly, and his emotions disappeared quickly. He asked in his mind, I want to know Su Qi's outcome in this immeasurable calamity. 1 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Hanju entered the illusion. When he opened his eyes again, Hanju came to a desert. Sand filled the air, and a blood aura covered the sky. At a glance, it could be seen that the land was barren and desolate. Hanju's gaze quickly locked onto a figure. Su Qi. He was kneeling on the top of a slope. His left shoulder and left arm were no longer there. The wound was surrounded by strange black qi. His hair was disheveled, his face was covered in blood, and his eyes were empty. Hanju noticed that his body was petrified, and his life force was dissipating quickly. Hanju frowned. Su Qi was going to die. At this moment, a black and white aura appeared above Su Qi's head. It spun into a vortex, and a figure appeared. It was Sage Fated Secrets. Sage Fated Secrets looked down at Su Qi from above. Su Qi, you used the Tao destruction mystical power to slaughter all living beings. The heavenly Tao does not tolerate it. Since you are my successor, what dying wish do you have? Hearing this, Su Qi raised his head with difficulty. He looked numbly at Sage Fated Secrets and asked in a hoarse voice, Why is this mystical power? Sage Fated Secrets said expressionlessly, Sages will only lose a major realm. However, to those below the level of a sage, you have to sacrifice everything, let alone you who is burdened with overwhelming negative karma. Hanju was shocked. There was such a price. He would ask when he returned. Su Qi smiled bitterly. Soon his body was completely petrified. Sage Fated Secrets waved his hand, and Su Qi turned into dust that scattered with the wind. The calamity has ended, and the heavenly Tao has restarted. Everything is like an illusion. With that, Sage Fated Secrets vanished. The illusion shattered. When Hanju returned to reality, he first asked if he would die directly, if he used the Tao destruction mystical power. No, Hanju was relieved. The system's products were indeed different. He guessed that the Tao destruction mystical power Su Qi had learned was an altered one, or that the Sage Fated Secrets had used a technique on it. This fellow is indeed scamming my disciple. Hanju cursed silently. His hatred towards Sage Fated Secrets increased. No, he had to curse him. Otherwise, his anger wouldn't be appeased. Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and started cursing. He would curse for 1 trillion years first. Anyway, Hanju was about to break through. At that time, his lifespan would be refreshed. 5 days later, Hanju's lifespan began to be reduced. Outside the 33rd level of heaven, In the great ultimate hall, Sage Fated Secrets was visiting Ancestor Shitian and listening to him preach. He suddenly frowned. The mysterious curse power increased. Who was so blind? They actually found trouble with him when he was visiting the transcendent Tao expert. Didn't the other sages know about this? Who's cursing you? Ancestor Shitian asked calmly. Sage Fated Secrets said, I'm not sure either. I can't deduce it. Senior, can you help me? Ancestor Shitian shook his head. Sage Fated Secrets sensed that something was wrong. So he changed the topic and asked, have the traces of the Tao ancestor appeared? He has always been here and has never been anywhere. Hearing this, Sage Fated Secrets fell into deep thought. After a while, he suddenly felt the curse's power increase again. With such a curse, if it was a pseudo-sage, he would probably be completely unconscious. Could it be that the Dark Forbidden Lord really exists, and that it is a sage's scheme? Sage Fated Secrets frowned. Ancestor Shitian said, it's time for you to return. I'll only give you a piece of advice. There's always a chance of survival in the 3,000 Great Tao. You sages have to hold back and leave some room for survival. Sage Fated Secrets nodded and stood up to bow. Inside the Khanate cave abode, Hanju had already 900 billion years of his lifespan deducted and was a little dizzy. Forget it. Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune and stopped cursing. The sage gave him the feeling of a bottomless pit. No matter how he cursed the other party, there was no outcome. Ancestor Shitian's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 3 stars. Hanju was surprised to see a line of words. Ancestor Shitian, what happened? Hanju immediately checked Ancestor Shitian's information. Ancestor Shitian, cultivation unknown. Transcendent Tao expert. Lives in the 33rd layered heaven. Unrestrained by fate and the heavenly Tao, he has experienced 9 immeasurable calamities. Because you have changed the heavenly Tao's calamity several times, he has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 3 stars. Chapter 445 Tao Sovereign enters the Hidden Sect. Hidden Sect's number 1 prodigy. Chapter 445 Tao Sovereign enters the Hidden Sect. Hidden Sect's number 1 prodigy. Because Hanju had changed the heavenly Tao's calamity several times, he raised his favorable impression of him. Has my identity as the Dark Forbidden Lord been exposed? Hanju panicked. The Tao field could block the prying of the heavenly Tao-level divine sense. Ancestor Shitian seemed to be above the heavenly Tao. Hanju secretly asked. Ancestor Shitian guessed that I'm the Dark Forbidden Lord? 100 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? 100 billion years? Hanju was shocked. Ordinary heavenly Tao sages were only worth 3 or 4 billion years. The difference was a little too great. Continue. Hanju gritted his teeth and chose. A line of words appeared in front of him. Ancestor Shitian does not care about the various worlds of the heavenly Tao. He doesn't know about the existence of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. In that case, Ancestor Shitian had only captured the changes in the heavenly Tao's calamity. Fortunately, Ancestor Shitian had a favorable impression of him. Thinking about it carefully, the endings of the calamities that Hanju had changed were all tragic. They were all about to destroy the world. He never thought of benefiting himself. Hanju felt no pressure after thinking it, through a transcendent Tao expert like Ancestor Shitian, should not interfere in the matters of the heavenly Tao. Otherwise, those extremely evil and sinful people would have long died. What kind of existence is a transcendent Tao expert? Hanju couldn't imagine what the world in Ancestor Shitian's eyes was like. Then he continued cultivating. 900 billion years of lifespan had not caused any problems for Sage Fated Secrets. To put it bluntly, it was because his cultivation level was too weak, and the Book of Misfortune was not strong enough. Time flew. The battle in the immortal world became more and more intense. Corpses were everywhere, and blood flowed like rivers. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. It looked like the war between the humans and the heavenly court, but behind it was countless races, sects, providence sects, and the sacred dynasties. A god of misfortune had recently appeared in the heavenly court. Wherever he passed, misfortune would overflow. The heavenly tribulation would be vast, and the mental demons would be chaotic. Every time he appeared, he would cause a large number of casualties. After his deeds spread, it caused all living beings to panic. It was Su Qi. Because of him, Heavenly Court obtained successive victories, causing the humans to feel uneasy. The human race's sage Fuxician was stopped by a mysterious sage. He had been fighting in the void and had yet to return. Under such circumstances, the human race needed a hero to stand out. Finally, as expected, a hero stood up. Zhou Fan. Zhou Fan wasn't afraid of Su Qi's bad luck. He was the only existence who could fight him openly. The two of them were on par. With the experts restraining Su Qi, the pressure on the battlefront decreased greatly. Just like that, 50 years passed. Han Ju was extremely close to breaking through to the late-stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. He would be able to welcome the opportunity to break through in at most 10 years. On this day, Dao Sovereign summoned him to the chaotic domain. Han Ju went to receive him. Dao Sovereign expressed that he came to fulfill his promise and was willing to join him. Just in case, Han Ju still spent 100 million years to derive it. He was only relieved after confirming that there was no mysterious mastermind behind Dao Sovereign. Dao Sovereign's talent was still very powerful. It could even be said to be the number one under the heavenly Dao. Han Ju said, "If you join me, you can forget about coming out anymore. You have to cultivate in seclusion with me." Dao Sovereign said calmly, "I understand. I have to consider what identity I should arrange for you. Do you want to be my disciple?" "What? You're humiliating me?" Dao Sovereign was furious. He had always treated Han Ju as a brother. But he wanted to be his master? This was too much. Han Ju smiled and said, "Do you want to spar?" Dao Sovereign snorted, "Of course. Come over first. I'll teach you a mystical power. Summon me and I'll bring you to my Dao field." A month later, Dao Novel. Calm Han Ju felt that Dao Sovereign was using the invocation technique. He also calculated cautiously and confirmed that there was no danger before going. Arriving in front of Dao Sovereign, Han Ju brought him away without waiting for him to speak. After returning to the Khanate cave abode, Dao Sovereign's gaze landed on him. He was stunned. What a handsome man. Dao Sovereign didn't look bad either. It seemed that all the geniuses had good looks. With a high cultivation level, it was extremely easy to change their appearance. However, it was almost impossible to achieve Han Ju's effect. After all, the aesthetic taste of all living beings was different. Dao Sovereign raised his eyebrows and asked, "Shall we fight?" Han Ju smiled and said, "All right, I have a mystical power that can't affect reality." He directly pulled Dao Sovereign into the simulation trial, and the two fought. There was no suspense. Han Ju directly used the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial Dharma idol to kill Dao Sovereign. Dao Sovereign was not convinced. He thought that it was an illusion. Therefore, Han Ju fought with him again, and let him use his full strength first. After he used his full strength, he killed him with a punch. Dao Sovereign was depressed. After returning to reality, Han Ju smiled and asked, "Are you going to be my disciple?" Dao Sovereign fell silent. After a while he asked, "Where's Zhao Xinyuan? He's already your disciple?" No way. If I become your disciple now, wouldn't I be his junior? Everything has to be done in order. If he becomes your senior brother, he can take care of you. Besides, if you become his junior, it will stimulate his cultivation. It's a win-win situation. Han Ju rejected calmly. Dao Sovereign frowned. It sounded reasonable, but it was ridiculous no matter how he thought about it. "Can I stand this embarrassment?" Han Ju continued. "If you're obsessed with your status, it means that you are superficial and not pure enough. Isn't cultivation the most important? Could it be that your ego is greater than your heart of cultivation?" Dao Sovereign gritted his teeth. He realized that Han Ju was really mean. "From today onwards, you are my 7th disciple. Go out and get to know the others. Cultivate under the tree. You can enter the previous combat mystical power at any time and train your combat strength." Han Ju sat on the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus and closed his eyes. Dao Sovereign nodded. Then, He noticed the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. His pupils constricted. This was Heavenly Tao Supreme Treasure. The legendary 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. Why was it here? A storm brewed in Tao Sovereign's heart. He didn't ask and turned to leave the Khanate cave abode. Soon, Hanju heard Zhao Xuanyuan's exclamation. He was clearly pleasantly surprised. It was worth mentioning that Tao Sovereign was already at the 5 mystic divine origin realm. Among Hanju's disciples, his cultivation level was the highest. Each successive disciple had higher cultivation. This was quite strange. The addition of Tao Sovereign caused another commotion in the hidden sect. Jiangyi didn't dare to be arrogant anymore. Li Yao also felt immense pressure. The Black Hell Chicken also began to cultivate seriously. Everyone could feel the pressure. The hidden sect was rapidly becoming stronger. There might be even more experts joining in the future. How could they dare to relax? Chu Shuren joked that the greatest winner of this calamity was the hidden sect. Zhao Xinyuan said proudly. With me and Brother Dao around, the hidden sect will definitely be a colossus in the immortal world in the future. All of you have to work hard and not be a burden. These words were very annoying, but they were also the truth. The Black Hell Chicken said unhappily, "Don't be arrogant. Jiang Yi Chu Shuren, you have to work hard to catch up to them." Jiang Yi snorted. Of course. You guys are the #1 faction in your respective factions, so am I. However, who is the #1 prodigy of the hidden sect? It's still unknown. Chapter 446 Late Stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm 5 Fiend Celestial Dharma Idols. Chapter 446 Late Stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm 5 Fiend Celestial Dharma Idols. Hanju turned a blind eye to the internal strife between the new and old factions of the hidden sect. He didn't plan to interfere as long as there were no conflicts. Cultivation was boring to begin with. If they weren't allowed to bicker, it would be too boring. 10 years later, the hidden sect regained its calm. Hanju also had a chance to break through. Releasing the strange deity to help him, he began to break through. Rolling negative karma surged out from the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus and surged into his body. It entered the Zenith Heaven Tao fruit and transformed into dharmic powers. After 7 years, Hanju finally broke through. Name: Hanju. Lifespan: 7,287/69 quintillion 999 quadrillion 999 trillion 999 billion 999 million 999,999. Race: Primordial Fiend Celestial. Cultivation: Late Stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. Technique: Primordial Chaos Reincarnation Great Tao. Heavenly Cycle Body Tempering. Great Tao. Great Tao of Life and Death. Great Tao of Karma. His lifespan doubled again. In a good mood, Hanju continued to consolidate his cultivation. When he reached the pseudo-sage realm, his lifespan would probably exceed its limits. The more lifespan he had, the stronger he could curse. Another 3 years passed, and Hanju completely stabilized his cultivation. He began to improve his Sword Tao mystical powers. In half a year, after raising all his Sword Tao mystical powers to the limit, he began to cultivate the Grand Unity aspect. The 4th Fiend Celestial Dharma Idol, Shadow Flood Fiend Celestial. The Shadow Flood Fiend Celestial transformed into a torrent of shadows that swept through everything. This technique could be used to form a sea of people. It could duplicate the shadows of all enemies and use them to fight enemies. In half a year, Hanju mastered this Dharma Idol. He was pleasantly surprised to find that he could still cultivate the 5th Fiend Celestial Dharma Idol, Void Fiend Celestial of the Void Great Tao. Everything could be reduced to the void. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. In the same half a year, Hanju completely cultivated the Void Fiend Celestial Dharma Idol. This time, he could use 5 Fiend Celestial Dharma Idols at the same time. His dharmic powers were endless after reaching the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. He didn't have to worry about exhausting his dharmic powers at all. Heavenly Constellation Fiend Celestial, Nineteen Fiend Celestial, Wind Shaking Fiend Celestial, Shadow Flood Fiend Celestial, and Void Fiend Celestial. with the appearance of the 5 great fiend celestials who could compete. Han Ju started the simulation trial. He swept through the zenith heaven realm. He fought against a pseudo-sage. Even the pseudo-sage of the Great Ultimate Hall could not defeat him. Han Ju fought with Wuxia. Unexpectedly, he was insta-killed. Han Ju almost became depressed. It was fine if he was blown to death by Ancestor Shitian, but being insta-killed by a heavenly Dao sage like Wuxia shook his Dao heart. Unknowingly, Han Ju felt that the heavenly Dao sage was not a true sage, so he underestimated him. He continued to fight the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, and was also insta-killed. How awful! Han Ju immediately sent a voice transmission to Zhao Xianyuan and Dao Sovereign, inviting them to enter the simulation trial. The two of them didn't reject, and quickly discovered that Han Ju wanted to fight 1 against 2. In the simulation trial, Zhao Xianyuan said bitterly, "Master, do you want to humiliate us?" Dao Sovereign was also very angry. Without another word, Han Ju took out 5 fiend celestial Dharma idols. They were all 10,000 feet tall, sinister and terrifying. Upon seeing the 5 chaotic fiend celestials, Dao Sovereign and Zhao Xianyuan felt inexplicably terrified. "What's that?" Dao Sovereign couldn't help but ask. Han Ju smiled and said, "A mystical power. Come, if you can destroy any Dharma idol, you will have the strength to defeat a zenith heaven. If you can't kill enemies beyond your realm, can you still be considered geniuses?" The 2 geniuses were deeply stimulated and immediately attacked. Under the Fusang tree, the chaotic heavenly dog shook its head as it stared at Zhao Xianyuan and Dao Sovereign. It said, "Look, have these 2 gone mad?" The other cultivators opened their eyes and looked at the 2 of them. Dao Sovereign and Zhao Xianyuan were trembling and had ugly expressions. They were even gritting their teeth as if they were enduring something. The others gathered around him. Chu Shuren said, "It shouldn't be a mental demon. Are they in the simulation trial?" The Black Hell Chicken asked in surprise. "These 2 brothers are fighting?" Everyone guessed and discussed. After a while, Dao Sovereign and Zhao Xianyuan opened their eyes at the same time. The 2 of them became dispirited. "What's wrong with you?" Morongqi asked curiously. Dao Sovereign snorted and left. He walked to the other side of the Fusang tree and entered a meditative state. Zhao Xianyuan said awkwardly, "We were sparring with Master earlier." The Black Hell Chicken's eyes lit up. 2 against 1? Of course. How was it? We were constantly insta-killed. Despair filled Zhao Xuanyuan's face. The others looked at each other. The Black Hell Chicken was about to add insult to injury when Li Yao sighed. "We're not even qualified to spar with the sect master." Everyone agreed. Han Ju didn't take the initiative to spar with others. Jiang Yi's expression turned ugly. Could it be that he was no longer in Han Ju's eyes? For a time, everyone's mood was affected. Khanate Cave abode. Han Ju was brewing the fiend celestial chi of shadow, flood and void. The 3 balls of fiend celestial chi from before were still condensing. There was no fixed number of them until the birth of a true chaotic fiend celestial. However, if they could condense, there would definitely be a result. It'd still be very useful even if it was only a chaotic fiend celestial puppet. Half a year later, the 2 new balls of fiend celestial chi successfully condensed. They began to condense and advance towards life. Han Ju took out the Book of Misfortune and started cursing sage-fated secrets. "I just broke through. I have to celebrate." After cursing for 5 days, Han Ju's lifespan began to decrease. He decided to break through the curse limit again. He would give sage-fated secrets 2 trillion years. He wondered if he could last that long. 100 billion years. 300 billion years. 500 billion years. In the immortal world, in the mountains, countless living beings occupied the entire mountain range, all facing one direction. It was a peak. On the peak, an old man with an immortal aura was preaching. It was sage-fated secrets. Taking advantage of the immeasurable calamity, he transformed into an immortal god and descended into the mortal world to win over the hearts of all living beings. He wanted to recruit troops for the heavenly court. He frowned as he preached. "The curse has begun again. It should be the Dark Forbidden Lord." The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate said that the Dark Forbidden Lord likes to curse once every 10 years. "Which sage is it?" Sage Fated Secrets was puzzled. Sages could spy on everything and derive everything. Therefore, Sage Fated Secrets was also used to and relied on deductions. When he couldn't deduce the enemy, he was a little confused. The curse power was becoming stronger again. Although it was not enough to hurt Sage Fated Secrets, anyone would be vexed by such a curse. Could it be that the other party wants to disturb my Tao heart? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. At this moment, a powerful aura erupted from the end of the world. I, Zhou Fan of the human race, am willing to sacrifice my providence and obtain the power to conquer the immortals. The immortals have slaughtered all living beings. This is against the heavenly Tao. I hope that the heavenly Tao will grant me the power to slay gods. The human race will never give up. Zhou Fan's roar resounded throughout the world. The listeners looked at each other. Before they could recover, another loud laugh sounded. A mere mortal dares to disobey the immortal gods, and dares to command the heavenly Tao. How ridiculous! How ridiculous! Zhou Fan, do you know the power of a sage? If you don't know, I'll let you experience it today. Chapter 447 Protection of the Great Tao Divine Spirit. Limit of 1,000 years. Chapter 447 Protection of the Great Tao Divine Spirit. Limit of 1,000 years inside the Khanate Cave abode. Hanju's lifespan decreased by 1.5 trillion years, and he started to feel dizzy. He had to stop. Sage Fated Secrets wasn't in his interpersonal relationships, and Hanju couldn't know about his recent situation. This was not good. Should he visit Sage Fated Secrets in his dreams? If I visit Sage Fated Secrets, will he see through my true identity? Hanju asked in his mind. 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Dark Nightmare is a great Tao mystical power. As long as you are not exposed, the heavenly Tao sage cannot see through you in the dream realm. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. In that case, he was relieved. He immediately dreamed of Sage Fated Secrets. Soon he entered the dream realm. This dream realm was the future scene he had deduced. It was an endless desert with sand covering the sky. Sage Fated Secrets was meditating in front. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at him. Hanju had already transformed into the dark forbidden lord. He swayed like a black shadow, looking terrifying and strange. Seeing the dark forbidden lord, Sage Fated Secrets was not puzzled. Instead he praised. This mystical power is impressive. It forcefully pulled me into a dream. Although it doesn't trap me, I can't deduce the karma and fate within it, nor can I see through you. Hanju said. You're pushing the calamity. You want to destroy all living beings. Sage Fated Secrets asked calmly. Why? The Buddhist sect is still in the immortal world. You're the only one who knows the Tao destruction mystical power. The outcome of the calamity will be someone using the Tao destruction mystical power to clean up all living beings. Your true goal is to replace the Tao ancestor. You will first destroy the humans and immortals, supported by the Tao ancestor, before creating a new race. Hanju spoke very casually, and didn't deliberately mention Su Qi. Sage Fated Secrets said. Not long ago, 2 people learned a Tao destruction mystical power. How can you be sure that it was me? I'm still preaching in the immortal world, and the heavenly Tao is observing. Hanju continued. The Tao ancestor is actually everywhere. Everything is in the eyes of the Tao ancestor. I advise you to behave yourself. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Why hadn't this fellow developed hatred towards him yet? Was he forcing him to show off? Sage Fated Secrets smiled and did not reply. If you insist, I can only be your enemy, Hanju said, his heart trembling. He was provoking a sage. Although he was certain that the sages could not deduce him, he was still a little scared. Sage Fated Secrets asked. You want to anger me? Hanju remained silent. As expected of a sage, Sage Fated Secrets has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, 1 star. Sage Fated Secrets said. Then, I want to see how you can become my enemy. With just your insignificant curse. Hanju said. What humans do the heavens will see. If one is unjust he will die. Sages rule over all living beings but they are still humans. Sage Fated Secrets was expressionless, but he was muttering in his mind. What did the other party mean? He began to calculate which sage the Dark Forbidden Lord was. From the way he spoke, it was difficult to determine. Hanju was about to end the dream when Sage Fated Secrets suddenly said, "The calamity is about to end. You don't have much time left." Hearing this, Hanju was secretly puzzled. Was this a declaration of war or a reminder? The dream shattered. Hanju returned to his cave abode. No matter what, Sage Fated Secrets was using Su Qi as a pawn. Hanju couldn't let him go. So what if he was a sage? Hanju would become a sage sooner or later. He pulled out his interpersonal relationships and checked the information of Sage Fated Secrets. Sage Fated Secrets, cultivation unknown. Heavenly Tao Sage, connate lifeform, immeasurable emperor. Because he suspects that you are the mastermind of the immeasurable calamity, he has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, 1 star. Suspect me? Aren't you the one? Hanju showed a frown. Sage Fated Secrets' hatred towards you has increased. Current hatred points, 2 stars. It increased again. It seemed that this fellow had imagined some schemes made by him after returning. Hanju thought of how Sage Fated Secrets said that the calamity was about to end and couldn't help but ask in his mind. How long until the calamity ends? 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? So much. However, compared to curses, it was still nothing. Continue. Hanju thought silently. Unknowingly, he didn't even care about 10 billion years of lifespan. He felt that he had become arrogant. Who asked him to be so strong now? According to the negative karma of the heavenly Tao, it will shrink in at most 1,000 years. The calamity will definitely end unless the heavenly Tao collapses. 1,000 years? So fast. Hanju frowned. He might not be able to reach the perfected Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm in 1,000 years. It was almost impossible for him to kill Sage Fated Secrets with curses. Why was it so fast? Could it be because of the sage's participation? Hanju felt that this was the reason. He checked the emails. Your good friend Zhou Fan sacrificed his providence and gained enlightenment from the heavenly Tao. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Zhou Fan was suppressed by the heavenly Tao sage and died. Your good friend Qiu Shilai was attacked by a heavenly Tao sage. Your disciple Su Qi spread bad luck. The providence of the heavenly court has decreased. The providence of the human race has decreased. Your good friend Ji Xianxian was attacked by your disciple Long Hao and was severely injured. Your grand disciple Feng Liang used the power of the heavenly court's providence to resist the heavenly Tao sage. He was suppressed and only a remnant soul remained. Your good friend Zhou Fan was saved by a mysterious existence and revived. Your good friend Heavenly Emperor has become more murderous due to negative karma. Zhou Fan was beaten to death by a sage. Then he revived. As expected of the Dharma idol of Seven Tao Sage. Seven Tao Sage was in existence on the same level as ancestor Shitian. If he attacked, the heavenly Tao Sage might not even notice. Ancestor Shitian was indifferent to the heavenly Tao. Why had the Seven Tao Sage been helping Zhou Fan? What was his goal in arranging for Zhou Fan to enter the cycle of reincarnation? Hanju felt that there was more to this calamity. I can't go out again. I'll curse here. If I can't interfere, so be it. Hanju thought silently. He wasn't as tough as Zhou Fan, who had the protection of the great Tao Divine Spirit. Sages ran rampant in the immortal world. He would die if he went out. Hanju made up his mind and prepared to survive this calamity. Should I calculate my own background and deduce the origins of the system? A question mark appeared above Hanju's mind. He immediately tried it. Then his attributes panel appeared. He was speechless. Cultivation was endless. Dreams lasted for 1,000 years. Another 50 years passed. Hanju cursed Sage Fated Secrets every 10 years, but the effect was minimal. He was also paying close attention to the emails and occasionally checked the sage's statuses. Zhou Fan, Ji Xianxian, Feng Liang, Duan Hongqian, the Heavenly Emperor, Pan Xian, and the others who were facing the calamity also appeared more and more frequently. The heavenly Tao immeasurable calamity was about to shrink. A world-shattering battle was brewing. On this day, Zhao Xingyuan visited Hanju. After entering the cave abode, he directly expressed his intention. Master, I've been feeling uneasy recently. I keep feeling that something big has happened, and I can't cultivate in peace. Zhao Xinyuan frowned. Han Ju said calmly, the calamity is about to end. It's the providence of the human race that's affecting you. Zhao Xinyuan was moved. So fast. Doesn't that mean that a huge battle is about to break out? Can you predict the fate of the humans? Chapter 448 Hao Tian's Terror, Destruction of the Buddhist Sect. Chapter 448 Hao Tian's Terror, Destruction of the Buddhist Sect. The humans are in danger, Han Ju said calmly, causing Zhao Xuanyuan's expression to turn ugly. Although he had left the human race and hid in the hidden sect, he still cared about the humans. Zhao Xinyuan muttered, could it be that even Sage Fuxi can't save the humans? Han Ju didn't reply. He believed that Zhao Xinyuan could convince himself. After all, this fellow had come here because he was afraid of death. At this moment, if he used the supreme treasure to force Zhao Xinyuan out, this fellow probably would not agree. The two of them chatted for a while more before Zhao Xinyuan left. In a few months, someone visited Han Ju again. This time it was Morong Qi. He was also feeling uneasy. Han Ju thought for a moment, and walked out of the Khanate cave abode to gather all the disciples. In at most 1,000 years, the immeasurable calamity will end. No matter who wins or loses, countless living beings will be buried with them. Your current state of mind is being affected by the karma of the heavenly Tao. You shouldn't want to enter the calamity, right? Han Ju went straight to the point. Hearing this, everyone shook their heads. The chaotic heavenly dog said, in any case, I don't want to go out. I'll stay here from now on. The others followed suit. This immeasurable calamity is a little fast. It's indeed fast. The previous calamities lasted for tens of thousands of years, or even millions of years. Millions of years? That terrifying? Legend has it that a long time ago, the immortal world was countless times larger than now. There were countless living beings. Any mortal stone could turn into a living being. It's finally over. After it's over, can we go back? Hearing the disciples' words, Han Ju smiled and said, if there's no danger after the calamity, the Tao field will move back to the immortal world. However, you still have to cultivate diligently when you get there. After the calamity ended, sages could no longer enter the immortal world, and would be expelled by the heavenly Tao. Han Ju didn't have many enemies to begin with. In fact, his actual identity had even fewer enemies. He was naturally not afraid to return to the immortal world. It was still too early for Han Ju's world of stars to transform into the heavenly Tao world. Who knew how many years it would take? As for the reroll world, Han Ju did not plan to let it out. In the future, he wanted it to guide his heavenly Tao world to develop. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. The current reroll world had already become a world of its own. Just like the Earth in his previous life, there was no such thing as ascension. During peaceful times, the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal was a top existence in the immortal world. As long as Han Ju did not cause trouble and occupied an area, it was definitely not difficult. It was also a good opportunity to develop the hidden sect and deal with the next immeasurable calamity. Regarding the hidden sect, Han Ju's plan was not to fight for hegemony, but to accumulate strength and gather like-minded cultivators to pursue the great Tao together. If he wanted to do something in the future, he could let his disciples do it. The hidden sect would take the elite path. Master, where's Yang Tiandong? When are you summoning him back? The chaotic heavenly dog asked. After all, they had been close and were beaten together. The dog couldn't forget his company. Han Ju said, when the time comes he will naturally return. Yang Tiandong had temporarily escaped the cycle of reincarnation, and was in the human camp fighting against the immortals. His cultivation level was not high, and he was considered cannon fodder. After comforting everyone, Han Ju returned to the Khanate cave abode. No matter when the calamity ended, Han Ju had to hurry up and cultivate. Without absolute strength, he did not dare to return to the immortal world. In a cave, Long Hao was meditating on a huge rock to heal his injuries. His complexion was very bad. It was obvious that he had just been severely injured. Suddenly the mountain shook violently. Countless rocks fell and turned into dust and were about to hit him. Long Hao opened his eyes and looked out of the cave. Two figures as big as mountains were fighting outside. On one side was a giant covered in scales and holding a huge axe. On the other side was a huge bird with a body like a rock and a head like a tiger or leopard. Its sharp claws were shiny and cold as if they were cast from iron. Long Hao frowned and muttered, "Have these guys lost their minds?" A soul shadow flew out from his body. It was Hao Tian. Hao Tian's expression was solemn as he said, "I didn't expect the immeasurable calamity to progress so quickly. It seems that a sage slaughtered living beings, causing negative karma to reach the limit that the heavenly Tao can bear. Now that the heavenly Tao's dharmic powers and negative karma have invaded the Tao hearts of all living beings, the great elimination is about to begin." Long Hao felt a headache. "Then what should I do? I feel that we can't cause trouble anymore. It's good enough to live." Previously, he had joined the heavenly court and fought for it. The dragon court that had been the first was suppressed by a sage and was completely wiped out. Only he had escaped. The reason why sages did not kill him was because of Hao Tian. Nonsense. We can only think of a way to survive now. When a sage enters the calamity, all our calculations have already turned to smoke. We have no chance of winning anymore. Hao Tian shook his head. He thought for a moment and said, "The most important thing now is to stabilize your Tao heart. Don't be driven by negative karma and lose your mind." Long Hao sighed and said in confusion, "Why do I feel that the sages are cleaning up the living beings under each other? They appear regularly and slaughter people, using the name of protecting their forces. The sages themselves don't seem to be fighting." The competition had already become a slaughter. Even Long Hao felt his heart palpitate. He was often worried that a sage would suddenly appear. "You're right. Slaughtering living beings is to worsen the negative karma of the world and advance the calamity. The sages will also fight. But they're sages after all. No one can kill each other. They're just putting on a show for the humans and the heavenly court," Hao Tian said very calmly. After all, he had also experienced the calamity and could see many things clearly. Still very puzzled, Long Hao asked, "What can the sages obtain by doing this?" Hao Tian shook his head and said, "I don't know either." He looked at the terrifying battle outside the cave and frowned. Actually, he had a guess, but he didn't dare to say it. If he was right, this immeasurable calamity was only the foundation. The true terrifying calamity was still brewing. Could it be the legendary Great Tao immeasurable calamity? Hao Tian was shocked. Terror filled his heart. 70 years passed. Perhaps because no one disturbed him, Hanju felt that the past 70 years had passed very quickly, as if he was cursing sage-fated secrets every day. Until one day Hanju saw an email. "Your disciple Su Qi was suppressed by your enemy sage-fated secrets. He was imprisoned in the Buddhist sect and endless bad luck spread." Sage-fated secrets suppressed Su Qi? He was trying to kill with a borrowed knife. Hanju cursed silently. They were using Su Qi to destroy the Buddhist sect. He immediately took out the Book of Misfortune and started cursing sage-fated secrets. However, his curse was useless. Sage-fated secrets was not affected. Another 30 years passed. Hanju saw another email, and his expression changed. "Your disciple Su Qi spread bad luck, causing the providence of the Buddhist sect to be destroyed. The divine Buddha Tao fruit has completely shattered, and the Buddhist sect no longer exists." The Buddhist sect was gone? Su Qi is so powerful? No. It was definitely sage-fated secrets doing. Hanju frowned. Su Qi had completely offended Qiu Shilai. It was unknown if Qiu Shilai could see that he was used by other sages. Just as Hanju was worried. "Qiu Shilai wants to visit you in your dreams. Do you want to continue?" "Qiu Shilai wants to visit you in your dreams. Do you want to continue?" This fellow started spamming again. Chapter 449 Great Tao Variable, Primordial Fiend Celestial. Chapter 449 Great Tao Variable, Primordial Fiend Celestial. Seeing Qiu Shilai come to visit him in his dreams, Hanju's first reaction was to ignore him. However, when he thought of how the Buddhist sect had been destroyed, he felt that Qiu Shilai was not looking for him to serve the Buddhist sect. It was probably related to Su Qi. His favorability had not decreased. It was acceptable. If he ignored him, would this fellow get angry and take revenge on Su Qi? Hanju took a deep breath and adjusted his state of mind. He accepted the dream. It was still that glorious hall. Qiu Shilai maintained the attitude of a golden Buddha, high up and looking down on everything. Hanju asked, "Senior, why are you looking for me?" Qiushi said, "Do you want to be Buddha?" Hanju was confused. "Fuck off. The Buddhist sect is already gone, and you want me to become a Buddha?" Qiu Shilai continued, "The Buddhist sect in the immortal world has already been disbanded. The providence has dissipated. After the calamity ends, I will personally appoint 3 Buddhas to rebuild the Buddhist sect. It can be considered avoiding the calamity." He was clearly being plotted against, but it sounded like his plan. Pretending to be shocked, Hanju asked, "Why did the Buddhist sect disband?" "It's just to disperse the providence. The Buddhas are still around. This can reduce the losses of the calamity." "Who are you?" "Sage of the Buddhist sect, Qiu Shilai." "Sage?" Hanju pretended to be terrified. Qiu Shilai snorted. "Stop pretending. You already guessed that I'm a sage, right?" Hanju smiled helplessly. "The identity of the Buddha is too important. I'm afraid I can't bear it. I just want to cultivate well and not manage the Buddhist sect." "It's fine if you're unwilling. I can let the Supreme Buddha control the Buddhist sect." Hearing this, Hanju understood that Qiu Shilai was determined to be tied to him. Hanju asked, "What's the situation in the immortal world now? When will the calamity end?" If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. In the game of the sages, all living beings seek to survive. When a sage dies, the calamity will be dissolved. Qiu Shilai's tone was extremely indifferent, as if he did not care about the death of a sage. Hanju showed a frown. The battle between sages had already reached such a level? Which sage would perish? Hanju's intuition told him that it was very likely Fuxishan. Niwa was the only one helping Fuxishan. The other sages were on the same side. Return to the immortal world after the calamity ends. The order of the heavenly Tao has been restored. Sages cannot directly attack the living beings of the immortal world, or they will suffer a backlash from the heavenly Tao. Qiu Shilai continued. Hanju nodded. He had the same intention. The heavenly Tao has the immeasurable calamity, but now, there's more than one heavenly Tao. Above the heavenly Tao, there's also the great Tao. The great Tao immeasurable calamity will arrive in the next few calamities. The dark forbidden zone will no longer be safe. Sooner or later, you won't be able to avoid the calamity and can only enter it. Prepare yourself early. The Buddhist sect can become your power. After Hanju heard that, he looked up at Qiu Shilai and asked, "Why do you think so highly of me?" Qiu Shilai said, "It's not that I think highly of you, but the Tao ancestor's choice. You're a variable that the Tao ancestor has determined. You represent the unknown, like the upcoming great Tao immeasurable calamity." Hanju was deep in thought. The so-called variables were only the unknown, not the savior. Why did the Tao ancestor leave such comments after disappearing? Qiu Shilai said, "Su Qi is also your disciple, right? He was used by another sage. If not for you, I would have directly killed him. In this calamity, I will try my best to protect the living beings who have a good relationship with you. This can be considered my sincerity." Hanju had no choice but to thank him. "Although I don't know what Su Qi has done, thank you, sage. After this calamity, if the Buddhist sect is in trouble, I will definitely help if I can." If Qiu Shilai helped Su Qi, the heavenly emperor, Xian Qingjun, and the others could also survive the calamity. Qiu Shilai responded, and the dream shattered. Qiu Shilai's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 2 stars. After returning to the Khanate cave abode, Hanju immediately asked in his mind, "Is Qiu Shilai's promise sincere? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" "Continue? Yes, unless you become his enemy." Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. The sage of the Buddhist sect was not as petty or hypocritical as he had imagined. I want to know why Qiu Shilai treats me so well. Hanju continued to derive. 1 trillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? 1 trillion years. Even more valuable than ancestor Shitian? It really involved the Tao ancestor? However, 1 trillion years was nothing to Hanju. He could only feel his heart ache slightly. Continue. Hanju felt uneasy. If he didn't understand it clearly, he didn't want to be a pawn. Immediately after, Hanju fell into the illusion. In a grand palace, the 9 heavenly Tao sages meditated side by side. Hanju recognized sage fated secrets and deduced their identities. In front of them was an extremely majestic old Taoist. Hanju looked up and couldn't see his head. It was really too high. He was a zenith heaven golden immortal, but he was actually unable to cross heights. This meant that there was still a limit to his cultivation realm. The legendary Tao ancestor, the great Tao calamity is about to begin. The primordial fiend celestial is about to attack. A loud voice sounded, causing reverence. Primordial fiend celestial? Hanju's heart trembled. Wasn't he the primordial fiend celestial? Qiu Shilai was the first to ask. Tao ancestor, what is the primordial fiend celestial? The Tao ancestor replied. All of you only know that Panga split the heavens and transformed it into the heavenly Tao. Before the creation of the heavens, chaos reigned. The chaos was the beginning of all things, while the primordial chaos was the end of all things. After the chaos was the primordial chaos. Before the chaos was the primordial chaos. The two are not differentiated by first or second. They exist for eternity. The chaotic fiend celestials opened the Tao, and the primordial fiend celestial destroyed the Tao. When the primordial fiend celestial appears, the great Tao calamity will begin. All the sages will perish. Everything will return to its starting point. The sages looked at each other. Hanju showed a frown. This time, he couldn't expose his identity as a primordial fiend celestial. Otherwise, he would become the enemy of the entire world. However, he didn't plan to slaughter the sages. Was it the Tao ancestor's guess, or had he deduced the future? Sect Master Tianju asked. Tao ancestor, how many primordial fiend celestials are there? I don't know. The Tao ancestor's answer was very simple. Another sage asked, has the primordial fiend celestial been born? I don't know. You can't deal with the primordial fiend celestial, either? I no longer exist, and have fused with the heavenly Tao. From now on, there will be no Tao ancestor. In the future, the great Tao calamity can only be faced by you. The sages were jolted. The Tao ancestor continued. A variable has appeared in the heavenly Tao. Even I can't see through it. Perhaps it will also be a variable in the great Tao immeasurable calamity. With that, the illusion shattered. Hanju's consciousness returned to reality. His state of mind was extremely unstable. The Tao ancestor's words pushed Hanju into an extremely dangerous situation. The primordial fiend celestial was him, and the variable was also him. What was the Tao ancestor doing? I want to know if the Tao ancestor knows that I'm a primordial fiend celestial? Hanju asked in his mind, unable to deduce the karma that exceeds the current limits of the system. Unable? Then earlier, that was. The derivation just now is the current limit of the system. When Hanju saw this notification, he couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Chapter 450 Rage of the Immortal Gods, Inauspicious Deity. Chapter 450 Rage of the Immortal Gods. Inauspicious Deity. Hanju's derivation was equivalent to looking at the arrangements of others from an omniscient point of view. The primordial fiend celestial would destroy the sages. It sounded like Hanju was in danger, but in fact he was not. Under the heavenly Tao, Hanju's reputation was extremely small. He was even inferior to ordinary mortals. It was as if he was watching a movie, but it skipped to the ending. However, this made Hanju more confident. As long as he did expose his identity as a primordial fiend celestial, he did not have to worry about anything happening. After all, the sages didn't know what the primordial fiend celestial was. Hanju stopped thinking and continued cultivating, patiently waiting for the immeasurable calamity to end. Qiu Shilai had already promised to protect the people around him. If he couldn't do it, Hanju wouldn't have any relationship with the Buddhist sect. As for those good friends who died in the calamity, they deserved it. Hanju had already reminded them that they were the ones who wanted to fight. Hanju could help them, but he wouldn't save them at all costs. A sage will die here. Is it really Fuxishan? Hanju was secretly curious. The death of a zenith heaven cultivator would cause golden rain to fall on the world. What about the death of a sage? What would happen then? He set a goal to reach the perfected zenith heaven golden immortal realm before the calamity ended. He would return to the immortal world after reaching the pseudo-sage realm. The demise of the Buddhist sect caused a huge commotion in the myriad worlds. First, the immortal world's Buddhas announced the dissolution of the Buddhist sect. The branches of the Buddhist sect that remained in the myriad worlds also disappeared one after another. The colossus that had once enveloped the heavenly Tao no longer existed. It was truly impressive. For a time, the various factions were panicked, including the humans and the heavenly court. Numinous Palace. Feng Liang was discussing the battle with the immortals when a heavenly soldier rushed in. Report Sage Nuwa has descended into the mortal world and is preaching to the humans. With that said, all the immortals were moved. Feng Liang also frowned. Fuxishan had already made the immortals despair. If another heavenly Tao sage came, how many immortals would die? They could all tell that although the heavenly court also had the help of sages, they had never saved them and only slaughtered humans. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. The number of living beings in the humans and heavenly court kept decreasing. If this continued, both sides would suffer heavy losses and fall together. Feng Liang asked, have any new races risen in the immortal world recently? An old immortal replied, yes, dozens of them, but they are not a threat. The immortals looked at each other. They weren't stupid. They knew why Feng Liang was paying attention to this information. The actions of the sages caused the humans and immortals to be bitterly disappointed. They could guess the sages' intentions. They wanted the two forces to kill each other, and then choose a new protagonist of the heavenly Tao. Even though they knew, they did not dare to refute, afraid that the sages would be angry. Moreover, the two factions had fought for so many years. The hatred was like a sea of blood that seeped into the bones and could not be resolved. The low-level cultivators and heavenly soldiers didn't know the sages' intentions and only felt that the higher-ups had compromised. This was the general trend. They could no longer retreat. Li Daokong asked, when will you save Su Qi? Not far away. The martial god general shook his head and said, he's suppressed by a sage. It's not easy to save him. Li Xianao mocked. Then if you're suppressed by a sage, do you want us to save you? The martial god general was furious, but he did not dare to answer. At this moment, another heavenly soldier rushed in. Report a new human emperor has appeared in the human race. It's Zhou Fan, who fought against the god of misfortune previously. The immortals were in an uproar and disgust. Isn't Zhou Fan dead? He can actually escape from a sage. Since ancient times, he's probably the first. Isn't he only an immortal emperor? He's not just an immortal emperor. He has already stepped into the deity realm. Could it be that the sage has shown mercy? Then what about us? The sages are acting for us and using us as whetstones for the humans? Upon knowing that Zhou Fan was still alive, the immortals were furious. They felt that they had been played by a sage. Apart from sages, how could anyone escape from them? Feng Liang had a complicated expression and felt even more so. He wanted Zhou Fan to live, but he was also angry at the sage's reckless actions. Could it be that the ones destined to perish are not humans but immortals? Feng Liang smiled bitterly. The hundreds of years of battle were almost unbearable for him. He had never rested much, let alone cultivated. 40 years passed during Hanju's cultivation. On this day, he cursed sage-fated secrets while checking his emails. Your good friend Han Ming encountered the ruins of the primordial sacred ground and obtained a supreme treasure. His providence has increased greatly. Your good friend Ji Xianxian was attacked by a deity realm human and was severely injured. He broke through in adversity, and his cultivation increased greatly. Your Dao companion Xian Qingjun was attacked by human cultivators, X4309. Your good friend Divine General was attacked by a human cultivator. X12222382. Your good friend Heavenly Emperor was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Su Qi has inherited a huge amount of negative karma. He has broken through, and the power of misfortune has increased greatly. Your good friend Pan Xian was attacked by your good friend Li Daokong. Your good friend Jiang Dugu was attacked by a sage and was severely injured. Your good friend Qiu Shilai was cursed by a mysterious curse. Along the way, Hanju saw 2 words. How tragic. They were all fighting. Everyone seemed to have gone mad. They kept fighting until they died. Hanju noticed that Qiu Shilai was actually cursed by a mysterious curse. This was a good thing. This meant that other than him, others were cursing the sages. In other words, some among the sages were causing trouble. Hanju thought silently. At this moment, Hidden Sect Island suddenly shook. They were being attacked by the inauspicious evil again. Because it was not the first time, everyone was very calm. Hanju suddenly sensed something and put away the Book of Misfortune. Then he took out the strange deity from the 36th grade reincarnation, World Destruction Black Lotus. The strange deity floated in front of him and wandered around, seemingly anxious. Hanju couldn't help but think of the last time a strange deity appeared. Could it be that another strange deity had appeared? Hanju checked the surrounding enemies. Indeed, inauspicious deity, cultivation unknown, a mysterious existence, born in the dark forbidden zone. It is formed by countless grudges over time. It is filled with killing intent and hatred. The inauspicious deity was not a strange deity. The strange deity was formed by the providence of the chaotic fiend celestial, while the inauspicious deity was formed by resentment and grudges. Hanju didn't panic. The inauspicious deity couldn't break through the array defense of the Tao field for the time being. What price will there be to subdue the inauspicious deity? Hanju asked in his mind. 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. The inauspicious deity is an extremely evil existence. It will not be tamed. Staying together, it is easy to develop mental demons. So troublesome. Hanju showed a frown. Boom. The cultivate diligently become a mortal mountain shook violently. The black hell chicken's cry came from outside the cave. What is that? The inauspicious deity had barged in. Hanju immediately spread his divine sense and saw that above the sea at the edge of Hidden Sect Island, Lubu was fighting a black shadow. Both sides were very fast, but from Hanju's observation, the black shadow was even faster. Lubu's dermic powers were directly devoured by the black shadow. Chapter 451 Devouring a Deity, Sun and Moon Yin-Yang Protection. Chapter 451 Devouring a Deity, Sun and Moon Yin-Yang Protection. The array formation of the Tao field was at the pseudo-sage level. Was the inauspicious deity stronger than a quasi-sage? Secretly shocked, Hanju immediately brought the 36th grade reincarnation World Destruction Black Lotus out. The disciples of the hidden sect flew into the sky and prepared to participate. Ma Chao also joined the battle and joined forces with Lubu to fight against the inauspicious deity. They were equivalent to Tu Zu Tu, but they were still not the latter's match. What is that? So fast. Something's wrong. This fellow isn't a living being. What a terrifying grudge. Everyone, stabilize your Tao hearts. What's going on? I can't see it, but I hear the sound of mental demons in my heart. Master is here. Everyone from the hidden sect panicked. When the inauspicious deity entered, a few people felt their mental demons manifest, including Jiang Yi. People who easily developed mental demons all had some sort of lingering indignation in their hearts. If one's Tao heart was unstable, it was naturally easy for them to develop mental demons. Hanju flew to the edge of Hidden Sect Island on the 36th grade reincarnation World Destruction Black Lotus. The strange deity followed on his shoulder. Looking at the inauspicious deity, Hanju was filled with vigilance. If not for him being worried that something would happen to the others, he could have used the simulation trial to test it. Although the inauspicious deity was strong, it couldn't directly kill Lu Bu and Ma Chao. However, Hanju could. This meant that he was stronger than the inauspicious deity. After all, the current Hanju could already compete with the pseudo-sage. Without another word, Hanju directly used the grand unity aspect and condensed 5 chaotic fiend celestial Dharma idols. 5 terrifying figures stood in the sky above Hidden Sect Island. The disciples' eyes widened. What was that? Zhao Xinyuan and Dao's sovereign subconsciously trembled. They couldn't forget the memories of being ravaged by the chaotic fiend celestials. The inauspicious deity was like a figure without a true form. It turned its head and rushed towards Hanju. Lu Bu and Ma Chao relaxed. The wind-shaking fiend celestial suddenly threw a punch, causing the wind to howl, and the inauspicious deity's speed to decrease. The distant sea was crushed until it stirred up endless waves, like a sea wall blocking the horizon. The void fiend celestial attacked as well. 2 black beams shot out from its eyes, enveloping the inauspicious deity. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. The inauspicious deity roared. Although it was silent, its attitude was extremely sinister. Even Hanju felt uncomfortable looking at it. Facing the power of the void fiend celestial's great Tao, the inauspicious deity began to turn into nothingness. At this moment, the strange deity on Hanju's shoulder immediately rushed out and arrived in front of the inauspicious deity. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed the inauspicious deity. The others couldn't see the strange deity. In their vision, the inauspicious deity seemed to have vanished into thin air. They couldn't help but become nervous. Just like that, the inauspicious deity was destroyed. Calm returned to Hidden Sect Island. Hanju finally understood. Although the inauspicious deity was strong, it was still weak when facing the power of the great Tao. Most importantly, the inauspicious deity had no sense of reason and only relied on instincts to fight. Hanju looked up at the sky. The array formation of the Tao field began to recover. The strange deity returned to Hanju. It was very happy. Swallowing the inauspicious deity was probably very helpful to it. Hanju returned to the cave abode after saying this. The danger has been resolved. All of you can continue cultivating. Everyone from the hidden sect and the 10,000 nether race members had yet to recover from their shock. It was settled just like that. Jiangyi couldn't help but ask, what mystical power was that just now? Dharma idol mystical power? Dao Sovereign took a deep breath and said, that's right, we were. Before he could finish, Jiangyi shivered. If he faced the fiend celestial Dharma idols? No way. After this battle, everyone from the hidden sect believed that the mighty figures in the simulation trial were all defeated by Hanju. In the Khanate cave abode, Hanju was observing the strange deity. His divine sense could not penetrate the strange deity, so he did not know its exact situation. He had no choice but to use the derivation function to probe. After devouring the inauspicious deity, what will happen to the strange deity? 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. The strange deity can become stronger by devouring more inauspicious deities. To be precise, the strange deity can devour all non-living beings to become stronger. All non-living beings? Hanju raised his eyebrows in surprise. He had found a treasure. Not only did the strange deity restrain the inauspicious deity, but it also suppressed other unknown existences. Of course, our ED on WWSITE. The prerequisite was that Hanju could help the strange deity suppress those peculiar existences. If the strange deity couldn't defeat the enemy, it definitely couldn't devour it. Hanju's thoughts returned. He began to control Hidden Sect Island to move, afraid that other inauspicious deities would appear. He suddenly felt uneasy. The dark forbidden zone was no longer safe. I want to know, how many inauspicious deities are there in the dark forbidden zone? Hanju asked in his mind. He was beginning to squander his lifespan, but he had yet to hit a round number. Yes, this was considered daily expenses. 10 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? So much. He had to. Hanju gritted his teeth and chose to continue. The inauspicious deities are constantly being born. Their numbers are steadily increasing. They are related to the Great Tao Sages. Great Tao Sages. Hanju felt that he had triggered another major side storyline. However, he did not continue calculating. It was useless even if he knew. He couldn't come into contact with the great Tao sages at all. One thing was clear. The dark forbidden zone would become more and more dangerous in the future. He wondered when the Tao field would be upgraded. He would probably have to wait for the next major event, or for him to break through to the pseudo-sage realm. Hanju was calm. After flying for another few months on Hidden Sect Island, he stopped and focused on cultivating. After being attacked by the inauspicious deity, another 60 years passed. The Hidden Sect was very calm. In the past 60 years, Hidden Sect Island was no longer attacked by inauspicious deities. Hanju was also not visited in a dream. Hanju focused on cultivating. He was still far from the perfected Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. However, he was confident that he could break through in 1,000 years. Sigh. His breakthrough speed was really slow. Hanju had no choice but to check his interpersonal relationships and compare them with his other friends to obtain psychological comfort. Niwa sent you a dream. Do you accept it? Hanju ignored her. He had already met Qiushilai. If he met another sage, he would easily fall into a dilemma. Besides, he would definitely be forced to enter the calamity at this juncture. Detected that a new heavenly Tao race has appeared. You have the following choices. 1. Come out immediately and slaughter this race. Help the human race stabilize the status of the heavenly Tao race. You can obtain a mystical power, a great Tao fragment, and a system upgrade. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner, and never enter the immortal world before the calamity ends. You can obtain a great Tao fragment and a supreme treasure. Hanju chose the second option without hesitation. Wasn't it courting death to slaughter that race now? You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner, and obtained a great Tao fragment and a supreme treasure. Congratulations on obtaining the Heavenly Tao Supreme Treasure Sun and Moon Yin-Yang Protection. Sun and Moon Yin-Yang Protection. Heavenly Tao Supreme Treasure, a defensive supreme treasure. It can block all attacks below the sages, and can absorb the essence of the sun and moon to convert into dharmic powers. What a treasure! Defensive supreme treasure. Great! Not only that, Hanju had already accumulated 8 great Tao fragments. Chapter 452 Rise of the Heavenly Race, Hanju's Development. Chapter 452 Rise of the Heavenly Race, Hanju's Development. Hanju took out the Sun and Moon Yin-Yang Protection. This treasure had 2 rings of light, both circular. He couldn't tell which was the sun and which was the moon. He began to make it recognize him as its master. After a few days he finally succeeded. The Sun and Moon Yin-Yang Protection automatically flew behind Hanju and floated in the air. It emitted light, and the strong light drowned his figure. One could only see his rough figure, and couldn't see his true appearance. This strong light could only affect others, and didn't affect Hanju's vision at all. Not bad. It was a very impressive looking thing. A mighty figure had to look like a mighty figure. Hanju didn't want a zenith heaven like him to appear like a mortal. He had to be impressive. Look at the heavenly emperor. Previously, when he stood in the numinous palace, the gods looked tiny. There was also Qiushilai who only revealed the statue, and not his true body. When he returned to the immortal world in the future, the world would see Hanju, but not his true appearance. How could a mortal spy on the face of a zenith heaven golden immortal? Hanju thought in boredom. His imagination was useless but interesting. Hanju began to be curious about the new heavenly Tao race. 1 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Heavenly race. Originally humans, after undergoing the baptism of the heavenly Tao, they became immortal gods. Through the supreme power of the sages they became a new race. This race has human nature, divinity, and powerful talent that rivals the Khanate races. Hanju was stunned. The immortal gods of the human race were a new race? How vicious! This plan was too ruthless. It fawned on the humans in heavenly court, and also cleaned up most of the living beings in the 2 forces. They were both humans and immortals. There were definitely few such existences. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Apart from the heavenly race, All living beings would be annihilated. The heavenly Tao calamity would finally end. The immortal world would return to its original state and develop again. Han Ju checked his interpersonal relationships. Ji Xianxin, Xian Qingjun, Fang Liang, the divine general, and Su Qi had all become part of the heavenly race. Poor Zhou Fan and Mo Fuzhou had missed the opportunity to avoid the calamity. To be precise, Mo Fuzhou was the most pitiful. Zhou Fan had a powerful background and would definitely not die. However, this didn't concern Han Ju. Since he wanted to fight, he had to bear the consequences. Han Ju closed his eyes and started cultivating. Another 50 years passed. Ever since he knew that the calamity was about to end, Han Ju felt as if he was possessed. He kept thinking about when it would end. With this mentality, time passed quickly, faster than any previous stage. Han Ju cultivated every day and cursed sage-fated secrets once every 10 years. Other than that, there was nothing else to do. He even read fewer emails. He didn't want to be swayed by the emails. The later the calamity, the more he couldn't enter it. He had already endured until now. All his efforts would be in vain. Han Ju had already done what he had to. Even if his friends died, there was nothing he could do. On this day, Han Ju placed his attention on the chaotic origin stone in the world of stars. After so many years, the chaotic chi produced by the chaotic origin stone had already reached a majestic level. In addition to the nebulous primordial chi produced by the stellar primordial body, the entire world of stars was in a daze. Han Ju discovered that hundreds of new stars had been born in the world of stars. This was only the beginning. There would be more in the future. It was worth mentioning that other than the white-robed Buddha, the reroll world had finally given birth to an immortal emperor. The spirit chi of the reroll world had already surpassed most mortal worlds, and might even surpass all mortal worlds. In a situation where resources were not scarce, reaching the immortal emperor realm depended on one's potential. After all, the human race was once the protagonist of the heavenly Tao. There were also geniuses in a tiny mortal world. Han Ju didn't rope in this prodigy. The reroll world had to develop on its own. Currently, there were enough prodigies in the hidden sect. He would wait for this batch of disciples to develop first. Everything was getting better and stronger. Han Ju warned himself to stay true to his heart and maintain his current pace. He didn't want to provoke a sage easily. Li Muyi wants to visit you in your dreams. Do you want to continue? Li Muyi wants to visit you in your dreams. Do you want to continue? Li Muyi wants to visit you in your dreams. Do you want to continue? Li Muyi started to spam again. Han Ju's good mood vanished. Ignore. Han Ju checked the emails to divert his attention. Your good friend Ji Xianxin has become the leader of the heavenly race. His providence has transformed. See, your grand disciple Fang Liang has fused with the providence of the heavenly court. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Zhou Fan has obtained the dermic powers of a sage. His providence has increased greatly. Your good friend Jing Tiangong was attacked by your good friend Jiang Dugu and was severely injured. Your good friend Xue Mingyi was attacked by your good friend Jiang Dugu and died. Your good friend Huang Zuantian was attacked by your good friend Jiang Dugu and was severely injured. Your good friend Jiang Dugu was attacked by your good friend Li Daokong and was severely injured. Your good friend Di Lantian was attacked by your good friend Pan Xian and was severely injured. Your good friend Heavenly Emperor was suppressed by a sage and was severely injured. Many of them were severely injured. Xue Mingyi had even died. Han Ju sighed. Although he didn't have a good impression of Xue Mingyi, this fellow treated him very well and listened to him. He felt a little uncomfortable that he died just like this. However, there was no choice. Xue Mingyi entering the calamity was his own wish. Cultivation was already a heaven-defying thing. It was normal to die on this path. The heavenly emperor was also severely injured, but he was not dead. If a sage wanted to kill him, he would definitely not survive. Apart from that, Ji Xianxin had actually become the leader of the heavenly race. It was unknown if it was related to him. Han Ju kept suspecting that the great opportunities his good friends obtained were all related to him. It wasn't that he was narcissistic, but that he was afraid of being schemed against by a sage. Hanju thought for a moment and decided to visit Jing Tiangong in his dreams. One was to comfort him, and the other was to assess the situation. Soon the two of them entered the dream. Jing Tiangong suddenly opened his eyes. He was pleasantly surprised to see the black shadow ahead. He hurriedly knelt down and said, "Forbidden Lord, you're finally here. You're right. This calamity is a complete trap. We shouldn't have entered it." He had a look of regret. Clearly, the Jie school had suffered heavy losses. Hanju said, "Shui Mingyi is dead. I already know. What do you think of the current calamity?" Jing Tiangong secretly admired the Dark Forbidden Lord's remarkable abilities. He even knew this. He thought for a moment and said, "Sage Jinan established the heavenly race with the immortal gods of the human race and changed the situation of the calamity. The human race and the heavenly court have reached a compromise. All the humans want to become the heavenly race. In order to do that, they have to rely on Heavenly Emperor Feng's divine investiture board. However, the other races can't become the heavenly race. Now the human race and the heavenly court are being attacked by the other races. The situation is not good. Most importantly, the attitude of the sages is unknown. They appear from time to time and sweep through the various battlefields. They even fight among themselves. Previously, when the sages fought in the 9 heavens, the heavens collapsed and the numinous palace collapsed. To be honest, I don't understand the situation anymore." Jing Tiangong looked ashamed. Hanju said, "You don't have to worry. Think of a way to avoid the calamity. The Jie school won't die. You have 2 heavenly Dao sages." Jing Tiangong asked in surprise, "2 heavenly Dao sages? Sage Jinan is also from the Jie school." "What?" Jing Tiangong was shocked. He clearly did not know about this. Hanju said meaningfully, "It's fine as long as you know about this." Chapter 453 Calamity of the Kiliacosm World, Slaying a Sage. Chapter 453 Calamity of the Kiliacosm World, Slaying a Sage. After knowing that Sage Jinan, who created the heavenly race, was a sage of the Jie school, Jing Tiangong was extremely shocked and couldn't calm down for a long time. He wasn't surprised, only terrified. He was the acting sect master of the Jie school, but he actually did not know about this. What did that mean? This meant that he was only a pawn. It could even be said that the Jie school left in the immortal world was their tool. The more Jing Tiangong thought about it, the more complicated his emotions became. Hanju said, "That's all I have to say. Take care." The dream shattered. As for what Jing Tiangong was thinking, Hanju didn't care. Jing Tiangong had a very good impression of him. He wouldn't sell him out. But it was fine even if he did. Anyway, Hanju had already pointed out the obvious path for him. It depended on him whether he could survive this calamity. Hanju began to hesitate if he should visit the Heavenly Emperor in his dreams. Calculate first. I want to know, are there sages around the Heavenly Emperor? 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Yes, Hanju sighed. He could only give up. He had already done what he could for the Heavenly Emperor. If he really died, Hanju could only try his best to support the Heavenly Court after the calamity ended to fulfill the Heavenly Emperor's final wish. Hanju calmed down and continued cultivating. He had to reach the perfected Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm first. After entering his cultivation state, Hanju lost track of time again. As his cultivation level increased, his understanding of the great Tao of life and death also increased. However, he did not dare to enter too deeply into it. He was afraid that this Tao had already been grasped by a mighty figure. He was waiting to gather the 9 great Tao fragments and create his own great Tao. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. He was only missing 1 great Tao fragment. Time flew. Year after year passed. Although the hidden sect was calm, the immortal world had already become a purgatory. The green mountains and rivers were razed to the ground. The endless sea turned into a sea of blood. The various regions were covered in corpses. It was a ghastly sight. Endless negative karma filled the air as countless vengeful spirits wandered in the immortal world. Some came from the 9 nether purgatory, while some perished in the calamity. Ghosts surged and the immortal world became the netherworld. 70 years passed. Hanju's cultivation improved again. Sun Chang'an and Han 8 stepped into the Emperor realm one after another. The others had all reached the Grand Unity Golden Immortal Realm. At this rate, it wouldn't be difficult for them to reach the Emperor realm before the calamity ended. The spirit chi in the Tao field was extremely abundant and had already surpassed the level of a holy land. In addition, Hanju often preached the Tao. Even a pig could cultivate and become an immortal here. Every existence who stepped into the Emperor realm would be called into the cave abode by Hanju. By giving special treatment alone, they could at least learn a great mystical power. After learning the mystical power, these disciples' strength began to increase by leaps and bounds. Sometimes one didn't need many mystical powers. One move was enough. No matter how many mystical powers one had, it was useless if they couldn't kill the enemy. On this day, Hanju walked out of the cave abode again and preached the Tao to the entire hidden sect. 10 years of preaching passed in a flash. The disciples were still immersed after he finished speaking. Thus Hanju came to the Fusang tree. He wanted to see the situation of the space-time vortex. Ma Chao was still guarding the vortex and sitting on the tree trunk. He was like an old Buddha, as firm as a rock and as immovable as a mountain. Seeing Hanju appear, he didn't stand up because he didn't have such pleasantries in his mind. He only had one mission: guard the Tao field. He didn't even need to cultivate. Hanju was very curious about the situation at the other end of the space-time vortex. The Kiliacosm world belonged to the other heavenly Tao and was far from the heavenly Tao immeasurable calamity. However, it definitely had its own calamity. Should he send someone to investigate? Would this be discovered by the heavenly Tao world of the Kiliacosm world? Forget it. Before he had the strength to fight against a sage, Hanju should try his best not to provoke one. At this moment, Morongqi suddenly came to his side. "Grandmaster, there's something strange about that world," Morongqi said. The other disciples were still in a state of Tao comprehension. It wasn't simple for him to be the first to awaken. Hanju asked, "Why do you say that?" Morongqi said, "It's just a feeling. I felt a mysterious and strange force passing by this vortex, but it didn't enter." Hanju raised his eyebrows. Could it be that Hidden Sect Island had already been targeted? Hanju asked in his mind. Who in the world discovered this space-time vortex? 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Inauspicious deity. Another inauspicious deity. Wait. Why were there inauspicious deities in that world? Didn't the inauspicious deities stay in the dark forbidden zone? Hanju continued to ask, losing another 4 billion years of his lifespan. The providence of the Kiliacosm world is declining. A large number of inauspicious deities are pouring into the Kiliacosm world. Hanju was secretly shocked. The inauspicious deities had invaded the Kiliacosm world. Wasn't this also a calamity? Fortunately, he did not go to the Kiliacosm world. Otherwise, he would be in trouble again. Hanju said, "It's fine as long as you don't go in. They're also experiencing a calamity." Morongqi frowned. Hanju left after watching for a while. He couldn't block the empty vortex for the time being. He couldn't really cut down the Fusang tree. If the inauspicious deity barged in, it would be a good opportunity to feed the strange deity. Numinous Palace. Feng Liang sat on the emperor's throne with a solemn expression. There were not many immortals in the hall, and they were all nervous. A heavenly soldier rushed in and shouted in horror. Fuxishan and Empress Nuwa are attacking Sect Master Tianju. The battle will soon endanger the heavenly court. We can't hold on to the 10th heaven anymore. The immortals were in an uproar. A heavenly general immediately looked at Feng Liang and said, "Your Majesty, retreat. There's no need for us to guard the heavens now. The 9 heavens have been destroyed. The sages have been fighting in the sky. If we stay in the sky, we will definitely suffer." The others urged. Now they had already lost their ambitions to slaughter the humans and dominate the heavens. They only wanted to survive. Feng Liang frowned and did not speak. The divine general asked, "Your Majesty, what does the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate mean?" Currently 2 sages supported the heavenly court. Sect Master Tianju of the Jie School and South Extreme, Heavenly Venerate of the Chan School. This was only on the surface. Unfortunately, the two sages did not truly support the Heavenly Court. They only used the Heavenly Court to clean up all living beings and pave the way for the heavenly race. Now Heavenly Court was in a dilemma. No matter how angry the immortals were, they did not dare to contradict the sages. This aggrieved feeling made them go mad. Feng Liang replied. The Heavenly Venerate asked the Heavenly Court to wait quietly. He said that the human race will undergo a drastic change next. Change? The immortals looked at each other, not understanding what kind of change would happen. Dong, a deafening bell sounded. The expressions of Feng Liang, the Divine General, and all the immortals in the hall changed drastically. They felt their souls tremble. The weaker immortals vomited blood on the spot, and their auras quickly weakened. What bell is this? Feng Liang was shocked. He seemed to have thought of something and looked terrified. Have they gone mad? Feng Liang's loss of composure made the immortals even more terrified. The Divine General asked, Your Majesty, do you know what happened? As Feng Liang circulated his energy to stabilize his soul, he gritted his teeth and replied, Heavenly Tao Fiendish Supreme Treasure. A sage is preparing to slaughter another sage. Chapter 454 Sage's Death. Pursuing the Dark Forbidden Lord. Chapter 454 Sage's Death. Pursuing the Dark Forbidden Lord slaughtering a sage. The immortals were in an uproar. They had always thought that the sages were acting. They didn't expect them to really have killing intent. The Divine General frowned and asked, Really? Could it be just intimidation? Feng Liang said in a low voice, Once this treasure is used, the world will be silent. It will also cause a backlash to the sages. It shouldn't be just intimidation. The numinous palace was about to fall. It would be fine if the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate and Sect Master Tianju used this treasure. However, if Fuxishan and Nuwa were the ones controlling it, the Heavenly Court would be completely finished. Despair began to spread. Every immortal god was uneasy. Another 20 years had passed since the last lecture. In the Khanate cave abode, Hanju was cultivating. Detected that the Heavenly Tao Sage, Sect Master Tianju, used the Heavenly Tao Fiendish Supreme Treasure to advance the calamity. You have the following choices. 1. Enter the calamity immediately and stop Sect Master Tianju. You can obtain a chance to upgrade the system. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and stay away from the calamity. You can obtain a chance to upgrade the Tao field. Heavenly Tao Fiendish Supreme Treasure? What was that? Forget it, it's not important. Hanju directly chose the second option. The Tao field has begun to upgrade. Hanju was in a good mood. He would be safer after the Tao field was upgraded. This time, the array formation of the Tao field should raise to the level of a sage, right? At that time, if the sages couldn't break in, he could cultivate in peace. It took time to level up the Tao field. Hanju didn't wait and continued cultivating. The second year, Hanju, who was cultivating, suddenly opened his eyes. For some reason he felt uneasy, and his mood was inexplicably low. He noticed that the hidden sect disciples outside the cave were the same. What's going on? I feel so depressed. You too. This feeling. Something big has happened in the immortal world. To be precise, something big has happened in the Heavenly Tao. Is danger approaching us again? I'm not sure, but the sect master isn't out. What's there to be afraid of? Hearing the conversation outside, Hanju frowned, not understanding what happened. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. He was about to use the derivation function when Hidden Sect Island shook violently. It was more intense than any previous attacks. The sea beside the island surged violently. The mountain shook and countless rocks rolled down. Hanju's eyes narrowed. Great dermic powers enveloped the entire Tao field and stabilized everything. He clearly felt an extremely terrifying impact sweep across Hidden Sect Island, sweeping it into the unknown. Xiao wants to visit you in your dreams. Hanju ignored him. Hidden Sect Island was in trouble, and he couldn't accept it. Xiao began to flood the notifications. Hanju cursed silently. This fellow was really crazy. How could he be so impatient as a sage? Han Ju asked in his mind. What is attacking Hidden Sect Island? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. This value. Sage. Empress Nuwa perished. The impact of the explosion of the heavenly Dao Sage's Dao fruit swept to Hidden Sect Island. Nuwa had perished. Han Ju widened his eyes and gasped. A sage had really perished. Most importantly, it was Nuwa. Perhaps because of the mythology in his previous life, Han Ju felt that Empress Nuwa was a level higher than the other heavenly Dao sages. He didn't expect her to be the first to die. With the sage dead, the calamity should have ended, right? After about an hour, Hidden Sect Island finally stopped. The dream request from Qiu Shilai continued to flood the notifications. Han Ju checked his surroundings and, after confirming that there were no strong enemies, accepted the dream. It was still the same hall. Qiu Shilai was still the mighty golden Buddha high above. Han Ju didn't reveal the sun and moon yin-yang protection. After all, this was a heavenly Dao supreme treasure. Having a supreme treasure for no reason would attract the suspicion of sages. Nuwa has perished. One of the 9 heavenly Dao sage positions is empty. After this calamity ends, all living beings can compete to become a heavenly Dao sage. You can prepare in advance, Qiu Shilai said. Heavenly Dao sage? I don't want it. Han Ju pretended to be shocked and asked. Sages will also die? Qiu Shilai said. Under the heavenly Dao's protection, the sages are undying and indestructible. However, in the calamity, the heavenly secrets are covered by negative karma. The sage's providence has weakened, and there's a possibility of death. The sect master of the Jie school, Tianju, used the heavenly Dao fiendish supreme treasure to kill Nuwa. Fuxishan was also severely injured. He can be considered to have left the battle of the calamity early. Sect Master Tianju. Han Ju couldn't help but think of the heavenly sect master in the investiture of the gods. The heavenly sect master was also the master of the Jie school. If he was forced into a corner, he would use the immortal slaying sword formation to kill a sage. The sages of the Jie school were so ruthless. Could this be part of their inheritance? Han Ju asked. In other words, the calamity is about to end? Qiushi said, yes. When the number of living beings is lower than the number of heavenly Dao, the sages will join forces to eliminate the negative karma of the world and restore the heavens. Han Ju was silent. In other words, another massacre would ensue. Nuwa died and Fuxishan retreated. The human race was finished. Han Ju wasn't in a good mood. After all, he was also a human. Although he didn't have a sense of belonging to the humans in this world, he still felt pity for them. After the calamity ends, return to the immortal world. A huge change is happening in the dark forbidden zone. In the future, it will be extremely dangerous. Below the sages, all living beings can only rely on the protection of the heavenly Dao to avoid being attacked by the dark forbidden zone. Han Ju nodded. The heavenly Dao sage shouldn't know the great Dao sage's plan. Han Ju didn't say that the rebellion in the dark forbidden zone was caused by the great Dao sages. It was useless to say it, and it would easily offend the other party. The heavenly Dao sages were already extremely terrifying. Who knew what kind of existence the great Dao sages were? Han Ju asked. What will happen to the heavenly emperor? Qiu Shilai replied. He no longer belongs to the heavenly Dao. To protect him, we can only expel him from the heavenly Dao. As for whether he can survive, that will depend on his luck. Han Ju remained silent. Perhaps this was the best outcome. He would ask the heavenly emperor if he was willing to follow him after the calamity ended. Do you know the dark forbidden lord? Qiu Shilai suddenly asked. Han Ju said, I've heard of him. Qiushi said, after the calamity ends, the sages will think of a way to find the dark forbidden lord. If anyone beside you wants to follow the dark forbidden lord, it's best to sever ties with them. It's very likely that the dark forbidden lord is not a heavenly Dao sage, but an evil existence outside the heavenly Dao. He has been interfering with the development of the calamity. If not for him, the calamity wouldn't have attracted the sages, much less end so quickly. Shocked, Han Ju asked in horror. An evil existence outside the heavenly Dao. Doesn't that mean that the Dark Forbidden Lord will threaten all living beings? That's right. But don't worry. The sages have their own arrangements. Trouble is really brewing again. Hanju sighed. He acted very naturally. Xiao Shilai didn't say anything else and ended the dream. After returning to the Khanate cave abode, the first thing Hanju did was ask if any heavenly Dao sage suspected that he was the Dark Forbidden Lord. After spending 4 billion years, he obtained the answer. No. Hanju was relieved. As long as they did not find him, the sages could deal with the Dark Forbidden Lord as they pleased. Chapter 455 Upgrade of the Dao Field, Nua's Great Dao. Chapter 455 Upgrade of the Dao Field. Nua's Great Dao. After knowing that the calamity was about to end, Hanju became calmer. The only thing he looked forward to now was the successful upgrade of the Dao Field. It had been a year, and it had yet to succeed. However, as long as he could raise the Dao Field array formation to the level of a heavenly Dao sage. So what if he waited for another 100 years? Not long after, Hidden Sect Island fell silent again. 8 years later, the Dao Field has been upgraded. The array formation has been upgraded to the heavenly Dao sage level. It has expanded the internal space of the Dao Field. Dao Field Immortal Qi has increased by 10 times. Khanate Qi has increased by 5 times. The Dao Field can block the prying of great Dao existences. The system has added a new guard position. You can completely duplicate a pseudo-sage expert in the simulation trial as a guard. He will listen to you. The guard cannot leave the Dao Field for more than an hour. Otherwise, he will directly melt. Heavenly Dao Sage level. Hanju was pleasantly surprised. Finally, not only that, but it could also block the prying of great Dao existences. He was completely confident. At least below the Heavenly Dao, Hanju was very stable. The new guard could be chosen from a pseudo-sage expert. Hanju asked silently, "Who is the strongest among the pseudo-sages in the Great Ultimate Hall?" There were many listeners in the Great Ultimate Hall. Most of them had never interacted with Hanju, so he had never seen them in the emails. As for the simulation trial, there were a few pseudo-sages. Hanju couldn't defeat them no matter what, so he didn't know who was stronger. 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. A figure appeared in Hanju's mind, and a line of words appeared in front of him. Du Dao. Perfected pseudo-sage realm. Immeasurable emperor, great Dao inheritor. Hanju remembered this fellow. He had grasped a strange and domineering mystical power. Once Hanju's dermic powers approached him, they automatically dissipated. The mystical power hit him and disappeared. Previously, Hanju felt that Du Dao was very strong. He didn't expect that he was really the strongest pseudo-sage. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. He was equivalent to the number 1 person below the sages. Hanju immediately chose Du Dao as the third guard. Beginning to duplicate the guard, Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. He felt that his future was bright. His Dao Field had already become a sage's Dao Field. Even if a sage came to attack, he might not succeed. At the very least, he could stall for time. He no longer had to worry about being spied on by great Dao sages. In addition to Du Dao, Hanju could use an hour to make the guard his killing weapon. Hanju was very excited just thinking about it. At this moment, Empress Nuwa sent you a dream. Do you accept it? Wasn't Nuwa dead? Hanju was stunned. Was she acting again? Hanju asked in his mind. If I accept Nuwa's dream, will I be in danger? 30 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? 30 billion years? This was 10 times the value of a heavenly Dao sage. Hanju suddenly recalled that Tai Sutian had barged into his and Xing Hongshuan's dreams. She had mentioned that Nuwa was about to jump out of the heavenly Dao sage position and wanted Hanju to inherit the position. Could it be? Continue. Hanju gritted his teeth and chose. The Dao Field can block the prying of great Dao existences. In the dream, the great Dao sage can't kill you. Alright. It just so happened that the Dao Field had been upgraded. Hanju chose to accept Nuwa's dream. Immediately after he entered the dream, This was a green mountain and river. There was a huge waterfall between the two peaks that looked like a galaxy. Niwa stood by the river. She was like a legend. She had a human body and a snake tail. She wore a colorful lotus dress and had a dignified posture. Her perfect face revealed a gentle smile as she waved at him. Hanju was stunned for a moment. He didn't walk up but asked cautiously, "You are?" Niwa smiled and said, "Niwa, have you heard of me?" "Sage." Hanju hurriedly bowed. Niwa stared at him and smiled. "Hanju, it's really difficult to visit your dreams." Hanju asked in surprise. "You've also tried before? Why did I only feel it now? Is it because I'm in the dark forbidden zone?" Niwa smiled. "Perhaps, but it's not important. Have you heard about my death?" Hanju replied truthfully. "I've heard the sages mention it." Niwa smiled and said, "They can't wait anymore." Hanju had many thoughts. Was this a plot by the sages? Or was Niwa tricking them? "I could have long transcended the heavenly Tao and stepped into the great Tao. I've only been looking for a successor, hoping that a benevolent person would inherit my position as the heavenly Tao sage. In this calamity, the ambitions of the sages were exposed. I took this opportunity to escape from the heavenly Tao. The other sages thought that I had really perished, but that's not the case. Don't tell anyone about this." Niwa smiled. Hanju said carefully, "Even if I don't say it, won't the sages know?" Niwa replied, "The heavenly Tao no longer has any traces of me. The sages are conceited and only believe in themselves. Who knows how many living beings in the world believe that I'm not dead? How can all sages believe that?" That was true. The difference in cultivation level made one's understanding different. Hanju took a deep breath and said, "Could it be that you want me to be a heavenly Tao sage? I don't have such talent." "Thank you for your kind intentions, Empress. Why do all of them want me to be a sage? Sage Qiushilai and Sage Li Muyi came to find you only to rope you in as a puppet. I'm different. I've already surpassed the heavenly Tao. Even if you become a heavenly Tao sage, it won't do me any good. I only hope to leave a chance for the heavenly Tao created by the Tao ancestor. In this calamity, the sages are in constant conflict, but they are actually putting on a show. Their goal is to destroy the providence of the Tao ancestors' heavenly Tao and escape the Tao ancestors' constraints. The human race is a heavenly Tao race established by the Tao ancestor. They have also overthrown them. For their own benefits, they might do even more without a bottom line. I have to choose a person with a benevolent heart. You are suitable. I've been observing you for a long time. Although you have little karma, you always do your best to protect the people around you. The Jade Pure Sacred Sect in the mortal world is not very helpful to you, but you have always been repaying their kindness. The Heavenly Emperor is the same. Although I don't know what methods you used, the Heavenly Emperor's calamity has been changing because of you. No other Heavenly Tao sage can sense this." Niwa's words made Hanju's heart shiver. She could even see through this? Ancestor Shitian also felt that Hanju was changing fate. Could this be a transcendent Tao expert? Hanju smiled bitterly and said, "I'm really afraid of trouble. I only want to cultivate and not fight with the sages. How about this? I'll choose someone among my disciples who meets your requirements." Niwa smiled and asked, "Hanju, do you think sages are child's play?" Hanju remained silent. However, he really did not dare to accept the position of heavenly Tao sage. Forget it. If you want to become a sage, you have to reach the pseudo-sage realm first. You still need primordial purple qi. The heavenly Tao has 9 primordial purple qi. My primordial purple qi is left somewhere. The heavenly Tao sages are probably still looking for it. When the time is ripe, I will hand it to you." Empress Niwa's words made Hanju heave a sigh of relief. Empress Niwa has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 2 stars. Chapter 456 Hidden Sex Zhao Yin, Decisive Battle. Chapter 456 Hidden Sex Zhao Yin, Decisive Battle. Thank you for your understanding, Empress. I will definitely choose a good person, who cares about all living beings, to inherit the position of sage. Hanju cupped his fists and said sincerely. Niwa chuckled and said, "That's all for now. In the future, There will be no Nuwa in the heavenly Tao. You still have to rely on yourself. I can't interfere in the matters of the heavenly Tao. It's against the great Tao. Hanju nodded. I understand. I don't dare to trouble you, Empress. Nuwa waved her sleeve and the dream shattered. Hanju's consciousness returned to reality. He exhaled. Sages were really good at this. Their schemes were deeper and deeper. Who could have expected that Nuwa would not really die? Even the sages didn't know. No matter what, at least I didn't take on the heavenly Tao sage position or offend her. This is considered a success. Hanju thought silently. So far, he hadn't offended any of them. Sage Fated Secrets was different since the one who had offended him was the Dark Forbidden Lord. What had this got to do with him? Hanju sighed and didn't know what to say. Everything was arranged. He even obtained the sage position. What Hanju wanted to do now was to continue cultivating and strive to be invincible below the sages before entering the immortal world. But it was fine even if he couldn't. Even sages couldn't break in if he stayed in the Tao field. Wait. He had to be cautious. Can the array formation of the Tao field completely block the invasion of a heavenly Tao sage? Hanju asked in his mind. Unable to stop the invasion of many heavenly Tao sages, Hanju's eyelids twitched. It was still unsafe. It seemed that before the Tao field upgraded again, he still could not provoke sages. He had to be polite and cautious towards them. Hanju shook his head and laughed. He continued cultivating. El Nua's death made all the living beings in the heavenly Tao even crazier. After all the living beings knew that even sages were not eternal, they became more and more daring. They all wanted to fight for providence in the calamity, and even become Tao sages. The war between the heavenly court and the humans had already stopped, but the various factions who supported them had indeed begun to fight madly. Those who had grudges would take revenge, and those who did not would snatch resources. For a time, the immortal world was even more chaotic. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Instantly, more and more factions surfaced, and more mighty figures became famous. As for the heavenly race, there was no sign of them for the time being. The Dark Forbidden Zone also began to become restless. 45 years later, Hidden Sect Island was attacked by another inauspicious deity. Hanju directly let it in, and let Zhao Yun deal with it. Zhao Yun was the new guard, a replica of Shi Dudao. This was also Zhao Yun's first battle. With a raise of his hand, the inauspicious deity was directly suppressed on the beach and could not move. The hidden sect disciples were dumbfounded. This new guard was stronger than Lu Bu and Ma Chao. After Zhao Yun suppressed the inauspicious deity, the strange deity immediately devoured it and became stronger again. The hidden sect disciples couldn't see the strange deity. They thought that Zhao Yun's mystical power had destroyed the inauspicious deity's body and soul. After dealing with the inauspicious deity, Zhao Yun returned to the Fusang tree expressionlessly and guarded the spatial vortex. Shi Dudao's appearance was not as domineering as Zhu Tu's. He was even slightly thin and weak, but his eyes were extremely cold and sharp, making people not dare to look at him. On the other side, in the Khanate cave abode, Hanju looked worried. This time, the inauspicious deity seemed to be even stronger than the one from before. At this rate, the Dark Forbidden Zone would really be filled by inauspicious deities. If an inauspicious deity beyond the heavenly Tao sage level appeared one day, it would not be good. Hanju moved Hidden Sect Island again. It would be bad if there was a connection between the inauspicious deities. Several days later, Hidden Sect Island stopped. Hanju continued cultivating and charged towards the perfected Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. In the immortal world, at the edge of the endless sea, at a cliff that stretched across the sea, as if isolating the sea here, two figures stood on the cliff. They were Zhou Fan and Su Qi. Zhou Fan was dressed in black and wore a WRM black jade crown. He held a huge cauldron in one hand and looked murderous. Su Qi was also dressed in black, but his hair was disheveled and his eyes were dark. Strange symbols crawled over his forehead. The two of them looked at each other and did not move for a long time. Zhou Fan slowly said, "I didn't expect my final opponent to be you." Su Qi said, I didn't expect so many people from the tiny scarlet cloud world to face the calamity. What would Hanju think if he knew that we were fighting? He might sigh, but it won't affect his Dao heart. Our conflict might be child's play in his eyes. That's true. He should be charging into the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm now. Of course. My master's potential is unparalleled. Unparalleled in the world? Do you know the chaotic physique? I know. Aren't you the same? Haha. Zhou Fan laughed wantonly. Yellow qi flowed out of the cauldron and into his body. His aura began to increase. Su Qi's robes fluttered as the aura of misfortune erupted. Zhou Fan needed immeasurable merit to continue defying the heavens. Su Qi needed great providence to cleanse his bad luck. The two of them didn't want to avoid this battle. They weren't close to each other anyway. They only knew Hanju. It wasn't enough for them to give up chasing each other. 10 years later, Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and cursed Sage Fated Secrets. At the same time, he habitually checked his emails. Your good friend Heavenly Emperor was expelled by your good friend Xiao Shilai and entered the deity realm of the Ruins of End. Your good friend Tai Sutian has received guidance from a sage. Her cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Huang Zuantian has joined the heavenly race, and his providence has transformed. Your good friend Zhou Fan was attacked by your disciple Su Qi and was severely injured. Your disciple Su Qi was attacked by your good friend Zhou Fan and was severely injured. Your good friend Mo Zhu received guidance from a sage and learned an immeasurable cultivation technique. Your good friend Li Daokong was attacked by your good friend Jiang Dugu. Seeing the Heavenly Emperor's situation, Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. Xiao Shilai had indeed fulfilled his promise. However, would it be dangerous for the Heavenly Emperor to go to the deity realm of the Ruins of End? He had to calculate before dreaming. Hanju noticed that Mo Zhu had finally made a move. Previously, he had learned that Mo Zhu had been taken in as a disciple by the sect master of the human school, which meant that she had been taken in by Li Mui. Now that she had learned the immeasurable cultivation technique, it was also a good opportunity. If not for Li Mui wanting to rope Hanju in, Mo Zhu would have died in the immortal world. Hanju hoped that this beauty would live well, but he didn't take it to heart. Back then, he had already asked her to stay, but she insisted on leaving. In that case, she had to be responsible for her choice. Time could erase everything and prove everything 5 days later. Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune and asked in his mind, is there a sage beside the Heavenly Emperor? 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Yes, Hanju was depressed. Why was there more? Could it be that he had been following the Heavenly Emperor? Forget it, he would visit him in the future. Hanju prepared to continue cultivating. At this moment he suddenly felt a powerful aura. It came from the Fusang tree. Space-time vortex. At the same time, on the Fusang tree, Zhao Yin and Ma Chao stood up at the same time and blocked the space-time vortex. A pair of cold eyes appeared in the vortex. I didn't expect to accidentally discover a space-time barrier. It's just nice for me to set up a Dao field. A cold laugh came from the spatial vortex. Chapter 457 Kill or Not, Ending the Immeasurable Calamity. Chapter 457 Kill or Not, Ending the Immeasurable Calamity. Humph, how impudent. Ma Chao roared angrily and immediately rushed into the spatial vortex. A sneer sounded. Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal? No wonder there's such a barrier. However, it's not enough. I want this place. His words made the Hidden Sect disciples nervous. After hiding on Hidden Sect Island for so long, they were all a little timid. At this moment, Zhao Yin suddenly stepped into the spatial vortex. In less than 3 breaths of time. How can this be? Who are you? Fellow Taoist. I was wrong. I'll leave immediately. Hearing this, everyone from the Hidden Sect heaved a sigh of relief and laughed. The Black Hell Chicken cursed. That's it. You gave me goosebumps. The chaotic heavenly dog shouted. Senior Zhao Yin is impressive. He will be my big brother from now on. The others also discussed. Zhao Yin carried a white-haired man out of the spatial vortex. Ma Chao followed closely behind. The white-haired man curled up as if he was tied up by an invisible rope, as Zhao Yun threw him onto the tree trunk. On the other side, Han Ju used the simulation trial to test this person's cultivation. Wu Dao, perfected Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm, human loose cultivator, eh? No powerful background. Han Ju heaved a sigh of relief. Wu Dao was able to suppress Ma Chao, who had Zhu Tu's cultivation, with extraordinary strength. After all, Zhu Tu was the strongest in the calamity of the immortal world, equivalent to the strongest Zenith Heaven cultivator. What should he do? If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. He definitely couldn't let this guy go, or the spatial vortex might expose his location. Han Ju sent a voice transmission to Zhao Yun. Zhao Yun looked down at Wu Dao with killing intent in his eyes, scaring him so much that he quickly shouted, "Senior, I was wrong. I was also being hunted down and had no choice. Let me go and I definitely won't return. It's fine if you don't let me go. I'm willing to be a slave. Don't kill me." The higher his cultivation level, the more he cherished his life. Wu Dao didn't seem to have left any life preservation means elsewhere. He was extremely afraid. Zhao Yun carried Wu Dao into the Khanate cave abode and returned to the Fusang tree alone. The disciples were not worried about Han Ju. Instead, they started to discuss if Wu Dao could survive. Li Yao said, "It's best to kill him to prevent future trouble." Chu Shuren frowned. "You're so evil." Dao Comprehension Sword snorted. "Wasn't that fellow very arrogant just now? If we can't defeat him, do you think he will let us live? He didn't say that he wanted to kill us. It's just that he didn't get a chance. It's not good to kill too many people. Over time, you will have no regard for life and death." Seeing that the three of them were about to quarrel, the Black Hell Demon Lord smiled and said, "Perhaps he will survive. After all, I was beaten into submission." Zhao Xinyuan said proudly, "I'm different. I have good judgment," and took the initiative to come. He had already joined the hidden sect for a period of time. Every time Zhao Xinyuan thought of the past, he couldn't help but sigh. This was the best decision he had ever made in his life. In the past, he had always listened to the arrangements of his elders, and rarely made decisions himself. Leaving the human race, and becoming Han Ju's disciple, was definitely the most important decision in his life, as the #1 prodigy of the human race. On the other side, inside the Khanate cave abode, Han Ju stared at Wu Dao and asked, "How's the situation in the Kiliacosm world? Who are you being hunted down by?" Wu Dao replied nervously, "Recently, the Kiliacosm world has been in chaos. The various Providence sects have been fighting non-stop. The sages have never appeared. I'm being hunted by my enemies. I really know my mistake. Let me go." Han Ju asked, "If I let you go, will you hate me? How can this be? Wu Dao has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, 3 stars." Wu Dao cursed in his heart. How could he not hate them? He was also a famous mighty figure in the Kiliacosm world. At his peak, 1,000,000 disciples had listened to him preach the Tao. If not for his current state, the more he thought about it, the more his heart ached. Han Ju sighed, and directly sucked Wu Dao into the world of stars before killing him. Wu Dao didn't even have time to react. He had just appeared in the world of stars when he was killed by a punch from the heavenly constellation, Fiend Celestial Dharma Idol. His body and soul were destroyed. "Unfortunately, you're not kind enough. You came to find trouble, and I wanted to let you go. Shouldn't you be grateful to me?" Han Ju thought expressionlessly. The current hidden sect no longer needed to absorb experts. Instead of absorbing unstable foreign experts, it was better to nurture them from the inside. Apart from his disciples, the 10,000 Nether race members also had great potential. Ever since Empress Hutu entrusted the Nether race to him, they treated Han Ju as their father. They even established stone statues that worshipped him in their territory. Currently, the Nether race and the hidden sect had yet to completely fuse, but they would occasionally interact. The Black Hell Chicken and the chaotic Heavenly Dog liked to play with them the most. Then, Han Ju closed his eyes and continued cultivating. He didn't move Hidden Sect Island. After all, the spatial vortex was located at the end of the Kiliacosm world and could not be moved. Several months later, Since Wu Dao did not walk out of the cave abode, the disciples knew that he was gone. The Black Hell Demon Lord guessed that Wu Dao must have felt hatred and was detected by Hanju. He had interacted with Duan Hongchen before and felt that Hanju had the ability to see through people's inner thoughts. His guess convinced the others. Hanju would never slaughter the innocent, but once he was threatened, he would definitely not show mercy. Chu Shern didn't say much. He didn't believe others, but he believed Hanju's judgment. Ever since they followed Hanju, they no longer encountered any danger. They could cultivate in peace every day. This was even safer than the Buddhist sect. Under the sky filled with rolling thunderclouds, the ground was stained with blood. The mountains and rivers were broken, as if they had been bombed by a terrifying force. No place was intact. Su Qi leaned against a huge broken stone, gasping and staring at the sky. Countless living beings gathered in the sky and the ground, surrounding him. Looking up, there were human cultivators, demons, dragons, vermilion birds, qilin, and so on in all directions. All the living beings looked at him with killing intent, hatred, and anger. Su Qi had fought for the heavenly court for so many years. His bad luck had spread to almost every corner of the immortal world. He had offended too many enemies. Now that the heavenly court had been defeated and was preparing to retreat, Su Qi became the target of everyone's anger. Su Qi, you can't escape. The immortals won't save you. A human cultivator laughed angrily. His voice resounded through the world, causing the other living beings to curse out loud. All sorts of ugly words entered his ears. Su Qi wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled. You want to find me for revenge? But do you remember how many sins you have committed? Sin is sin. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. I, Su Qi, have done it. I admit it. But if you want to kill me, just attack. Stop talking nonsense, and stop trying to comfort the uneasiness in your hearts. Su Qi flew up as he spoke. The aura of misfortune overflowed and surrounded him. This scene frightened the living beings so much that they retreated, not daring to be the first to attack him. Boom, boom, boom. The ground shook violently as terrifying footsteps came from the horizon. Everyone turned their heads and saw a 30 kilometers tall figure walking over. Su Qi, you slaughtered my race. Today, I will definitely destroy your soul. A furious roar exploded. Su Qi frowned, feeling the pressure. At this moment, a voice sounded in his ears. Do you want to end everything? As long as you are willing to use your mystical power, the calamity will end. The living beings who survived will be grateful to you. You can even obtain heavenly Tao merit, because you stopped the endless calamity. Chapter 458 End of All Life, Reboot of the Heavenly Tao. Chapter 458 End of All Life, Reboot of the Heavenly Tao. Su Qi frowned, knowing that it was Sage Fated Secrets who was bewitching him. But he thought of Hanju's words. This was a trap. Su Qi looked up and saw a huge figure appear at the end of the world. These figures were at least at the deity realm. At this moment, Su Qi felt sorrow. Others would always fight in groups, but he would always be alone, be it for himself or for the heavenly court. Su Qi thought of the invocation technique. He could ask Hanju for help. Although he didn't care about them, he believed that if he used the invocation technique, Hanju would definitely help. No. How can I have such thoughts? Master has already helped me a lot. How can I drag him into the calamity? Su Qi's eyes became even more ruthless. Since that was the case, he could only risk it. At most, he would die. I've lived enough in this life. Su Qi raised his right hand and laughed wildly. Today, I want to see who can kill me. With that said, all the living beings in the world flew into a rage and charged at him. The scene froze. Su Qi, who was surrounded by all living beings, was so tiny. He was like a piece of rubble in the forest, and he would be drowned by all living beings in the next moment. In the blink of an eye, another 40 years had passed since he had killed Wu Dao. On this day, Hanju was uneasy. He was a zenith heaven cultivator, and would not develop emotions for no reason. Something must have happened. He immediately checked the emails. Your disciple Su Qi used the Tao destruction mystical power. His providence has fallen greatly. Your good friend Mo Fujo was attacked by a mysterious force and died. Your good friend Xu Jingxing was attacked by a mysterious force and died. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Your good friend Xian Qingjun was attacked by a mysterious force. Fortunately, the providence of the heavenly race protected her. Your good friend Flame Lord Emperor was attacked by a mysterious force and died. Your good friend Huang Zuantian was attacked by a mysterious force. Fortunately, the providence of the heavenly race protected him. Your good friend Han Ming was attacked by a mysterious force and died. Your good friend Han Ming obtained the help of a sage and was revived with the last trace of his soul. As he watched many died, everyone in the heavenly court was about to die. Hanju frowned. Why was Su Qi still using the Tao destruction mystical power? Hanju asked. How many living beings have died because of Su Qi? 1 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. 90% of the living beings were wiped out. The exact number is immeasurable. Hanju remained silent. So many. Hanju checked Su Qi's cultivation. It was at the rank 1 Immortal Emperor realm, but after using the Tao destruction mystical power, it would decrease by a major realm. In other words, Su Qi had already reached the deity realm. Too ruthless. Was this the Tao destruction mystical power? If a sage used it, wouldn't all the living beings in the heavenly Tao die? Xiao Shilai wants to visit you in your dreams. Do you accept? Xiao Shilai wants to visit you in your dreams. Do you accept? Xiao Shilai wants to visit you in your dreams. Do you accept? This fellow was too impatient. Accept. Hanju's consciousness entered the dream. It was still the familiar hall, and the familiar golden Buddha. Xiao Shilai said in a low voice. Your disciple Su Qi used the Tao destruction mystical power to slaughter all living beings and forcefully ended the immeasurable calamity. Shocked Hanju asked, Tao destruction mystical power? What is that? How can he be so capable? He became more and more terrified, as if he had heard some amazing news. How great of a sin is this? Hanju muttered to himself. Regardless of whether Xiao Shilai believed this act or not, he convinced himself that he didn't know about this at all. Xiao Shilai sighed. It's not only the immortal world. The other mortal worlds are the same. They're deathly silent. Your disciple is doomed. I can't save him either. Hanju showed a frown. Xiao Shilai changed the topic. He has to die. Otherwise, it will be difficult to appease the anger of the other sages. And we won't be able to give the heavenly Tao an explanation. I can only help him leave behind a trace of his remnant soul. I'll hand him to you in the future. From now on, he's not allowed to appear within the heavenly Tao. Otherwise, his body and soul will be destroyed. Hanju knew that this was the best outcome. He hurriedly thanked Xiao Shilai and asked curiously, where did my disciple learn such a powerful mystical power? Xiao Shilai sighed. The Tao destruction mystical power was passed down by the Tao ancestor to the sages. I believe that your disciple was also used by a sage. As for who it is, I can't tell you for the time being. You can't withstand the karma of the sages. I'm doing this for your own good. Hanju was silent. It seemed that Xiao Shilai might be on the same side as Sage Fated Secrets. He would derive it after returning. In any case, he didn't completely trust Xiao Shilai and Niwa. It was just that he was not strong enough, and could only pretend to trust them. The calamity is considered to have ended. In 10 years, the sages will disperse the negative karma of the world. After that, you can return to the immortal world at any time. Hanju asked, when can the immortal world be filled with living beings? Xiao Shilai said, in the nurturing of the world, all kinds of living beings will eventually be born. You can also use this opportunity to preach and establish a sect. 10 million years later, you will be a mighty figure respected by all living beings in the world, just like the past Buddha, the heavenly emperor, and the demon emperor. Hanju sighed. Immeasurable calamity, death calamity. Only a few people could escape this calamity. Living beings cultivated in peace. With the accumulation of time, they would surpass all living beings sooner or later. It was equivalent to cultivating countless years earlier than the new living beings. Even ordinary living beings could become mighty figures. After the calamity ends, the The sages can no longer attack under the heavenly Tao. You can rest assured about this. The one who controls all living beings is the heavenly race. The leader is an old friend of yours. You will know in the future. In other words, you can return in peace. There won't be any danger. The dream shattered. Hanju realized that he had returned to reality. He asked, "Is what Qiu Shilai said just now true? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" Continue? Yes, Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. But when he really returned to the immortal world, he had to do something. Hanju continued to ask, "What's his relationship with Sage Fated Secrets? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" Continue. According to favorability, they have a 3-star favorability. 3 stars. In other words, they were in the same boat for the time being. But there was a possibility that they would break up. Indeed, he couldn't trust Qiu Shilai completely. Hanju thought silently. When he thought of how the calamity had ended, and the heavenly Tao had restarted, Hanju sighed. Fortunately, he had moved the reroll world out in advance. Otherwise, it would have been destroyed. Wait, in that case, wouldn't the reroll world be the only mortal world below the heavenly Tao? If he developed a little, Hanju's heart beat faster, and he didn't dare to think about it. He could already see endless power and benefits surging towards him. As long as he worked hard, he might even become the most powerful existence below the sages. He was even stronger than the past heavenly emperor Zhu Tu, the heavenly Tao Buddha, and other ambitious figures. Something's wrong. This is a trap. To destroy a person, one must first make them mad with greed. The sage wants to harm me. I can't appear on the surface, but I can support my disciples. Before the next calamity, if I become a sage, the other heavenly Tao sages will definitely not be my match. And all the major factions below the heavenly Tao are branches of the hidden sect. Doesn't that mean? The more Hanju thought about it, the faster his heart beat. After being controlled by the sages for so long, it was time for him to rise. Chapter 459 Perfected Zenith Heaven Realm. Invincible under the sages. Chapter 459 Perfected Zenith Heaven Realm. Invincible under the sages. No, I still have to be careful. How can I fight with the sages? Unless I can insta-kill them, I can only fight with them. Before that, I can't have any such intentions. It's easy to be discovered. The Tao ancestor is my role model. He was already invincible when he appeared. Hanju adjusted his state of mind. It had to be said that Qiu Shilai's words were too bewitching. Not to mention him, anyone else wouldn't be able to withstand it. Hanju decided that he couldn't compete with them before surpassing the heavenly Tao sage level. Before that, he had to maintain a low-profile cultivation attitude. Then, Hanju continued cultivating. He had to break through to the late-stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm before he could break through to the pseudo-sage realm. 10 years went by quickly. A pillar of light suddenly descended on the Cultivate Diligently Become Immortal mountain. Hanju, who was in the cave abode, was also enveloped by the strong light. Detected that the heavenly Tao immeasurable calamity has ended, and the heavenly Tao has restarted. You have obtained the providence of the immeasurable emperor. You have the following choices. 1. Return to the heavenly Tao immortal world, and make preparations to become a legend in the future. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, and a chance to activate a new function of the system. 2. Never return to the immortal world. Stay in the dark forbidden zone. You can obtain a mystical power inheritance, and a great Tao fragment. Immeasurable Emperor? Hanju decided not to choose for the time being. He would choose when he returned to the immortal world. The new function of the system was too attractive. He placed his attention on the Immeasurable Emperor title. The Immeasurable Emperor title meant that he had already entered the calamity and could be considered to have survived. What's the use of the Immeasurable Emperor's providence? It can help you resist the bewitchment of the heavenly Tao's negative karma. You won't lose your mind in the next immeasurable calamity. That's it. Hanju secretly felt disdain. Hanju checked his interpersonal relationships and discovered that Zhao Xianyuan, Tao's sovereign, Jiangyi, Morongqi Xinghongxian, Fang Liang, Ji Xianshen Su Qi, Huang Zuantian, and the others had also obtained the title of immeasurable emperor. Almost all the existences who survived the calamity obtained the providence of the immeasurable emperor. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. People like the Black Hell Chicken and Sun Chang'an, who had been staying in the Dao field, did not obtain it, because after the calamity started, they did not go out at all. The dark forbidden zone doesn't belong to the heavenly Dao. How can the providence of the heavenly Dao reach me? Han Ju was secretly surprised. The ability of the heavenly Dao was really strange. Wait, does the immeasurable emperor's providence come from the heavenly Dao or the great Dao? Han Ju asked in his mind. 5 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Great Dao, I knew it. The great Dao was everywhere, higher than the heavenly Dao. Although the dark forbidden zone was far from the heavenly Dao, it was also under the great Dao. Han Ju continued to ask, if I return to the heavenly Dao now, will I be killed by a sage? 4 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Detected that the order of the heavenly Dao has been restored, and the restrictions on the heavenly Dao sages have also been restored. The sages can't enter the myriad worlds with their true body, and can't directly kill the living beings in the heavenly Dao. Otherwise, they will suffer a backlash from the heavenly Dao. No wonder the sages all moved in the calamity. They usually stayed in the 33rd heaven. It was because of the heavenly Dao's rules. He really couldn't be a heavenly Dao sage. Although they became undying, they also lost their freedom. Then again, if the heavenly Dao sages couldn't attack under the heavenly Dao, could they attack in the dark forbidden zone? Was the dark forbidden zone even more dangerous? Han Ju decided to return after reaching the perfected zenith heaven golden immortal realm. Before the calamity started again, even if a sage wanted to kill him, they could only ask other mighty figures to help. However, a pseudo-sage couldn't enter his Dao field. Han Ju said, everyone hurry up and cultivate. After some time, prepare to return to the immortal world. His voice resounded throughout the Dao field. Hearing this, everyone became excited and some were nervous. We're finally going back. Could it be that the calamity has ended? That's right. I just obtained great providence and learned that the calamity has ended. This calamity was really fast. It's unprecedented. Only a few thousand years? It's very likely that sages were involved. There's no choice. Sages are too powerful. Once they enter the calamity, how can all living beings play? After confirming that he was prepared to return to the immortal world, Han Ju sped up his cultivation. It had been more than 500 years since the last breakthrough. According to the time, he was about to break through. The zenith heaven realm was really difficult to cultivate. Han Ju couldn't imagine how determined those cultivators who used millions, tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions of years to break through a minor realm were. After Su Qi used the Dao destruction mystical power, Han Ju's emails became much quieter. He might not even receive an email per year. It was really quiet after the calamity ended. Time passed quickly. 97 years later, Han Ju finally had the chance to break through. It took him 6 years to break through. Name: Han Ju, lifespan 7,909/100 quintillion 999 quadrillion 999 trillion 999 billion 999 million 999,999 race. Primordial fiend celestial, immeasurable emperor. Cultivation, perfected zenith heaven golden immortal realm. Technique, primordial chaos reincarnation great Dao, heavenly cycle body tempering, great Dao. Great Dao of life and death, great Dao of karma. His lifespan had broken through again. Over 100 quintillion. Han Ju was in a good mood. The lifespan he had squandered previously had all been refreshed. He wondered if he could reach the pseudo-sage realm before reaching 10,000 years old. Han Ju began to consolidate his cultivation. After spending 5 years, he completely stabilized his cultivation level and began to improve his Sword Dao mystical powers. Half a year later, Han Ju's various Sword Dao mystical powers reached their limits. All of them reached the pseudo-sage level. His mystical powers had already reached the level of a pseudo-sage. He only needed to increase his cultivation level. Hanju began to cultivate the grand unity aspect. The sixth fiend celestial Dharma idol was the scarlet clear fiend celestial. It possessed the power of the sun and could burn all things. The seventh fiend celestial Dharma idol was the weak water fiend celestial. This water was extremely heavy and could sink all existences. The eighth fiend celestial Dharma idol, the extreme darkness fiend celestial, possessed the great Tao of darkness and could envelop all the senses of living beings with darkness. In 2 years, Hanju cultivated 3 fiend celestial Dharma idols. After that, he didn't obtain the cultivation memories of the 9th fiend celestial Dharma idol. With 8 fiend celestials attacking together, who could compete with him? Hanju began the simulation trial. This time, he was really invincible below the sages. However, he couldn't insta-kill existences whose cultivation had reached the late-stage pseudo-sage. For example, Shi Dudao. Hanju fought for 5 minutes before killing him. Shi Dudao could devour all mystical powers, but he couldn't devour the power of the great Tao. He still had a defensive supreme treasure. The 8 chaotic fiend celestials surrounded him for 5 minutes before he exploded into nothingness. As for Li Daokong and the others, they had already been insta-killed by Hanju. No one below the sages should be able to kill him. Of course, this was only Hanju's guess. After all, he was referencing the listeners of the Great Ultimate Hall. Perhaps there were many powerful existences hidden in the Heavenly Tao or other Heavenly Tao worlds. No matter what, Hanju could return to the immortal world now. He immediately controlled Hidden Sect Island to fly to the immortal world. In the dark forbidden zone, his senses could not work. However, he could sense the 6 paths insignia. Fang Liang, Huang Zuantian, and the others had 6 paths insignia in their souls. They were all in the same direction, probably the immortal world. Is it dangerous for me to return to the immortal world now? Hanju asked in his mind. 2 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. After all, on the surface, he no longer had any enemies. Other than sage-fated secrets, almost all the people who hated him were dead. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.